What do you get when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Rube.
Welcome to Couch and the Rube, our Friday afternoon show presented by our friends at Firekeepers Casino and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. Download the app today. Get your first casino deposit and sports wager matched up to $500. Bet the games we are betting. Or just bet your own games and actually make money. But we'll give you some picks here in a little bit with Harry Gagnon and what we're betting. And see if there's anything you like. I got some Premier League games I love as well. Some big college football this weekend, some fun NFL. Jason, how you doing, brother?
Welcome to the Blue Wall.
Why you sound different? Did you get sick or something? Or
Yeah, I got blasted this week.
Really?
I got absolutely
By
blasted. Who? Probably that woman on a plane last week. I stand by my column in 1996 that if you come to school sick or come and work now, you're an adult, but you should be suspended for 3 days. Because I'm going to tell you, the week I just went through, much worse than being punched in the face. The only thing that would be worse about being punched in the face is like the moment no it was coming, right?
Really?
But I would rather take a fist in the face than feel as lethargic as I felt. He's got a stupid-looking face. Monday night, Tuesday, Wednesday is stuffy, is awful. And so now I feel good. My energy's back. I just sound a little different. But
so you had COVID and you came in here?
I did not have COVID.
Oh,
I got tested.
Thank God.
Yeah. Thought I did for a minute. Went in, got all the full tests, didn't have the flu, anything like that. So,
nice.
But it just got knocked out a little bit. So that
Sorry
happened.
to hear that.
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks. But I stand by that. Like one of the worst things you can do to people in this world is show up in public under the weather. And we need to build a society that allows people when they're sick not to miss anything. Everything gets rescheduled. There's no questions asked. Just
Yeah, but it makes sense. But people take advantage of everything. So you know how that would go.
Yeah. Anyway, but I'm good now. I feel good, and I just hope people can deal with my voice being slightly different, because I know when I listen
deal with your regular voice,
right? But I know when I listen to somebody who's slightly under the weather, I can't deal with it. I can't listen to the podcast. I can't watch the show. I watched The Green Mile in 1990.
Let's end it.
Yeah, I watched The Green Mile in like 1999 or whenever that movie came out in the theater, and I had a cold and I was stuffed up. I will never watch that movie again. To this day, when I see that movie or see the thought of that movie, I get stuffed up thinking about it. It's
That's
awful.
normal.
Right. So yeah. I hope people can deal with me today. We've got a lot to do. We're going to get into your Groovy Donut Twitter questions, some fantastic stuff, a lot of MSU football, some really good MSU basketball too. That's going to be the bulk of today's show. We're going to get to Harry Gagnon in a few minutes first and pick some games. But we should get into a little bit of what transpired this week.
The hiring of Jim Comparoni.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or as one person points out, Ryan Black actually looks more like him in certain ways than facial features, the former LSJ
Yeah, but
writer.
what fun is that? He's not here anymore.
No, that's true. But Jonathan Smith, hired as Michigan State's football coach, introduced on Tuesday. My initial thoughts are it looks like a good, smart hire. We'll see how it plays out. You get to watch him work and you get to see how this, they got a lot of guys in the portal. There's a lot of staff being put together, a recruiting class to be put together. There's a lot of stuff that's happening, and then there's a program to be built. The thing that stands out is it told me the type of coach and program that Alan Haller and Michigan State want, or at least that Alan Haller wants. And the type of coach they hired, they wanted somebody who had been a sitting head coach and had built a program and liked that they had done it at a place that didn't have all the resources in the world relative to their chief competitors. And those are all things that make this a hire that's a fit for Michigan State. The lack of Midwest ties, obviously, is something he's going to have to address, and he's obviously aware of through the building of his staff. And we'll see how it plays out. The fit outside of that looks really good. And one of the things that, in talking with Haller on Monday night, he just talked about it wasn't so much he didn't need a guy who understood the Michigan State rivalry per se, having been in the rivalry or around it. He needed somebody who understood what it was like to coach at a school that had a rival like that had somebody just up the road that looked down on you sometimes and you wanted to beat them with everything you had. And that's the Oregon State-Oregon dynamic that existed. He had played there. He will fit into that Michigan State rivalry really quickly, I think. And that wasn't, that's not a small thing to me, because Mark D'Antonio, we've talked about this before he flipped the script, or before he turned Michigan State's program around, flipped the script on that rivalry, and he embraced where fans were at that time especially. And Michigan State fans are there again. They need somebody to speak to all of the dynamics at play and be with them in the foxhole and embrace that. And then they need somebody to build them a program that can compete with it, because that's ultimately the only counter. The only counter to being hit on Twitter, is if you're a fan, 40 times a day with 49-0, is to do something about 49-0. And so that is, that's what Jonathan Smith is charged with doing. There's some big questions still out there, and we're going to get into this in the Groovy Donut Twitter questions. The NIL situation and how that impacts the retention of players and who they can bring in, quarterback and elsewhere. Those are big deal questions, and things that some of which I still need to look into. I was not able to be there Tuesday, which stunk. The timing was bad in that sense, and that question really didn't get asked there, because that is SD4L pulling out on this team, and that brand being damaged as a NIL collective is something Michigan State's going to have to overcome. And I think they have donors who want to help, and they have some will there, but are they going to lose some extra guys because of that? Are they going to be unable to bring in some guys? Are they going to get recruited against with that? I think so. But I also, so to me, this seemed like a great hire if this was 2017. I think it's still a really good hire, but the big questions involving NIL, which impact every facet of roster construction, are still out there. What were your initial impressions?
Sorry, I didn't know if you were done or not.
Sorry.
Obviously, I just think Alan Haller knew that was the best option he could get that wasn't named Urban Meyer, because he wanted him for like the past 2 weeks, waiting on Jonathan Smith to make a decision, which is understandable. But yeah, Haller got his guy. I don't see many people complaining. I know if Jason Campbell or Candle were the hire, people would be bitching and moaning probably. But I think people realize what he did at Oregon State. The record is 500, but it doesn't really count like we've talked about, right? Because the first one or 2 years was kind of dire there. So he can turn a program around, especially like Oregon State. And he's done it with offensive line help and defensive line help. So I just think the fan base is absolutely ecstatic about Jonathan Smith right now as we talk about it.
It was pretty clear to me that, Urban Meyer was never Haller's choice. That was clear. And so much more of this search was done by him alone than I even realized, how tight his circle was. He was incredibly secretive and purposely so. He had been through a few of these. He had seen how leaks had damaged them. He said they lost one candidate in the Mel Tucker time they hired Mel Tucker because of leaks. He'd been through it with D'Antonio and just seen that era, and it was different there. There wasn't the same stuff with Twitter and everything else. But he wanted this, so he did a lot of the initial work just on his own. And now that doesn't change the reporting I have on Matt Ishbia and even Izzo being guys who were intrigued by Urban Meyer.
Is that a crime to be intrigued by it, though?
No, and I don't think anybody is. Nobody should say it is. There's nothing wrong with that.
It sounded like there was something wrong because people got hot pissed if you brought up Urban Meyer whatsoever.
No, I think there were two sides of it. I think some people didn't like it.
I saw it on Twitter. People were pissed.
Okay.
Counts.
Okay. Well, okay, so people were pissed. No, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I don't think Urban Meyer necessarily would have been a bad hire. I just think, again, when I talked about early on, the job is to find the next Urban Meyer. This is different than that because Urban Meyer was a guy, if you picked him up at, I guess, closer to what he did at Utah, but he had won big there. He had gone places and won fast and won big, and that's what made him so intriguing. But this is a guy who has won in a realistic way. He went to a place that was 1-11 and built a program. To the last 2 years, they were 18-7. And he has a renowned offensive line coach. Now, we've heard that before, though. At Michigan State at this point, I don't know if Jesus himself Jesus could build an offensive line that could protect a quarterback. But Michigan State may not have a quarterback to protect, so that's a whole.
Well, that's the question. Will Childs come with Jonathan Smith? I mean, it's just fascinating. I'm not into that world, but you have to pay attention to it a little bit of the NIL and the transfer portal shit. It's absolutely fascinating. But did you see now the new Oregon State coach, promoted defensive coordinator Trent Bray, a former Beavers linebacker? He kind of threw a little shade at Jonathan Smith for not really talking to the team. Does that concern you at all, that how he left Oregon State? Because I know people were offended kind of how Mel Tucker left Colorado.
Not at all, because it's just so hard to leave well. You know,
I'm surprised that he would do it, because you got the job. I think Trent Bray got the job that he wanted. You should be happy for Jonathan Smith, no?
Yeah, and it sounded like he was coming to Michigan State otherwise. So it
was just interesting, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so hard to leave a place. Well, if this happened to Michigan State, their fan base would be pissed. If this happened anywhere, sure. I understand why Oregon fans are upset. They're in a really crap situation. Without
because you
question.
call them Oregon fans and not Oregon State.
Oregon State. Oh, jeez, yeah, people hate that. Oregon State fans. Apologies.
But we talked about, though, if the Pac-12, they were not disbanding after this year. I mean, Jonathan Smith, I think he would have been harder to get to Michigan State. Just my opinion.
I don't think he would have been in a hurry to leave his alma mater. He might have wanted to see what he could actually do there.
Right.
I think he felt like he had reached the ceiling at a place that was no longer going to be in a Power 5 conference. And so that's that. You know, Michigan State, the ceiling is open to him again, and to see what can become and what he's able to build and all that stuff.
So we'll have to thank the Pac-12 for being so bad at running a conference that we got Jonathan Smith, if it ends up working out.
Yeah, not just the Pac-12, but the greed of the Big Ten and USC.
No, we don't talk
schools.
about the greed of the Big Ten.
Yeah,
just the Pac-12's ass.
Yeah, the Big Ten is this altruistic, wonderful place that cares only about the student athletes.
Sure.
We're going to get into a lot more of this. I mean, I think it's going to be a fun discussion today. Some great Groovy Donut Twitter questions from all of you. We're going to take a really quick break. We get back. We'll pick some games first this weekend. The college football championship games, and the NFL games with Harry Gagnon. Couch in the Rube, presented by Firekeepers and the Firekeepers Eye Casino and Sportsbook app.
Where else can you cheer on your team? Enjoy a mouth-watering burger or savory sushi. Sip on handcrafted cocktails or one of 46 beers on tap. Take your game day or date night to Cask & Company Kitchen, Bar, or Front 43 Neighborhood Pub near Frandor. Two amazing places with one awesome blended modern American-Asian menu. Catch the game on one of 30 60-inch TVs or stop in for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Enjoy happy hour or elevate your night out at Cask & Company or Front 43 on East Saginaw in Lansing. Ever wonder how comfortable you can be and how good you can look? Put on a Muskox flannel and find out. Muskox has new arrivals for this fall, including the Caper Green Grand Flannel, which even makes couch look good. Muskox is a Detroit-based flannel company that creates soft and durable flannels made to last a lifetime. They become a great partner with Couch in the Rube, not just because they make us look good and feel good, but because they're good people too, and a socially conscious company. For every $100 purchase, $10 is donated to the Alaska Wildlife Conservation. Muskox flannels are designed with 100% cotton that is ethically sourced and double brushed for softness. Feel the quality and comfort of a Muskox flannel by ordering at GoMuskox.com, where Couch in the Rube listeners can enjoy $15 off their flannel purchase with the promo code HOFF. Firekeepers Online Casino and Sportsbook is the site to play. Get in on the action with pre- and in-game wagering. You can go green or blue on Saturdays or Lions on Sundays, plus hockey and hoops. Get your first casino deposit match up to $500. Plus, bet $5 on sports and get $100 in free bets. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and located in Michigan. Gambling problem? Call the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117.
Find Couch in the Rube podcasts on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and the Rube's favorite, Podcast Addict.
It is time now to pick the games presented by Firekeeper's iCasino and Sportsbook app. And to do that, we bring in our great friend from The Ringer and Against All Odds with Cousin Sal, Harry Gagnon. Harry, brother, how are you?
What's up, guys? How's everything?
Doing well.
Nice.
By the way, Graham, before we get into everything, I did the gambler's no-no to Harry last night because he picked the Seahawks. By the way, great, a hilarious video you guys created. The cartoon thing is hilarious. Those need to be like 15, 20 minutes long. But I made the no-no, Graham, because it was 9.5, and I know it's Mike McCarthy, but I thought it was later in the fourth quarter, so I congratulated Harry on his bet.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh yeah, and he sends me a text, not over yet. And I'm like, oh, shit. I know, but it still was Mike McCarthy, semi in my defense, but I apologize.
Rookie mistake, Graham. Rookie mistake.
Totally.
Yeah.
I was embarrassed.
Yeah, you should be. That's not
sorry.
And it did boil. I mean, if Dallas easily could have scored a touchdown there at the end and won by 10. It's funny, guys. You know, when Myers missed that field goal after they got that penalty in the first half, I said to a couple buddies, after he made the field goal, then they got the penalty and then he missed it. I said, Dallas is gonna win this game by 10. But fortunate to pull it out. Very fortunate.
Well, this is a big, fun weekend. I think there's some decent NFL games, but just a great college weekend. It's like all the games are big games. It reminds me of like looking at the paper on what's on TV on like a Saturday in like 1995 because you'd only have like 5 or 6 games televised. They were all good games, right? And this is sort of what the championship weekend is. It's just minus all the other stuff. We'll start with what's tonight for our live. This Friday night, Oregon -10 versus Washington. This line, I mean, I get that Oregon is, looks like they might be as good as anybody in the country, but styles make fights, and I think these are two high-octane offenses. I think Washington knows they can play with Oregon. It's just too many points for me. I think even if Oregon is up more, they're capable of scoring late. They're capable of scoring quickly. I think they're in this is a live underdog on the money line, but I 10 is too many. Give me Washington. Jason, where are you?
Yeah, I think Dan Lanning learned a lot from the Week 7 loss versus Washington. 0-3 on fourth downs in that game. But I'm with you guys. I'm with you. I think that 10 is a lot of lumber, especially with Oregon's defensive back injury situation, Harry. But I'm going to take the Huskies and give me the 10. What do you like?
Yeah, boy, this. I really. By the way, guys, today, if they have a cable provider has FanDuel TV, Cousin Sal and I are giving out picks. We did 16 weeks. We ran the gauntlet last night, taped it, so it's available today. We did 16 games, did 4 college, 12 pro. I gave out the under in this game. But I think this is a game where, again, I know it's 10 points. It's crazy. Washington 3 in the country, getting 10 on a neutral field, not even at Eugene. But I'm still going to take Oregon here, and like I said, I like the under 65.5. It's just the Huskies' offense has tailed off lately. The last 2 games, their games have been just 42 and 45. Michael Penix's last 2 games, just 162 yards and 204 yards passing. Also, the last 2 games, worst completion percentage as well. 54 versus Washington State, 46 versus Oregon State. And the Ducks' defense has been dominant. I mean, forget about Bo Nix and the numbers he's putting up, but the defense for the Ducks is where I think this game is going to matter. They've given up 20 points or less in 4 of the last 5. Washington keeps holding on, barely winning. I think the last 8 wins have been by 10 points or less. I got Oregon winning this one, maybe something like 37-20.
Wow. Okay. So Harry's on the Ducks.
Even though the defensive backs for Oregon, I mean, they're questionable. There's a couple guys out.
Understand,
right.
But I just don't like what Washington has been doing. They probably should have lost that game to Oregon State and could have lost to Washington State too. I just very fortunate at the end. I just kind of like where Oregon's going right now. I think they're playing the best out of anybody in the country.
All right, Oklahoma State +15 versus Texas in the Big 12 championship. The final Big 12 championship. That's the final Pac-12 game, Oregon-Washington. This is the final Big 12 championship as the Big 12 is constructed. And, I'm so torn here because every part of me says Mike Gundy, +15, underdog. This is a moment, right? Yeah, right. This is built for Mike Gundy. I think Texas knows they've got to win with some style points, but I don't know if they're capable of doing 15 is too many. I'm going Oklahoma State. If it's over 2 touchdowns like this, that's where I'm at. Jason, where are you?
Yeah, Oklahoma State's offense has been really great after starting really, really sluggish, but they've also given up 30 points in 5 of the last 7. I'm all over the over, boys, but I guess give me 15 in Gundy's mullet. What do you got, Harry?
Well, I'm with you on Jay on the over. I like the over a lot, but I'm going to take Texas here. You mentioned Oak State and their offense has been pretty good lately, but they were very fortunate in the game last week just to pull out a 40-34 double overtime win versus BYU. They've given up 30 points, like you mentioned, in 3 straight contests. So what's Texas' offense going to do to them? I think the Longhorns are coming off putting a 57 on the board versus Texas Tech. Their highest scoring in the game of the year. They may have to really roll it up here just to impress a little bit more. And Texas offense, like I said, very dangerous with the running back core of Jadon Blue, Savion Red, Xavier Worthy, excellent wide receiver here. I've got Texas winning this one big, 45-27.
Whoa. Okay, so Harry's against me on most things here at this point. This is a little concerning. Okay, Georgia, -5.5 versus Alabama. I think we're going to be aligned here. I think Georgia's just a better team than Alabama. I like this a lot. I think they're a touchdown better, and so you're giving me inside at 6. I'm all over Georgia here. I even think this could be a 10, 14-point game when it's all said and done. Give me Georgia. Jason, where are you?
I know, but why 5 and a hook? It's just kind of weird. No Jace McClellan for Bama. Bauer status, I mean, they're keeping that close to the vest, but I'm with you at face value. I like the Georgia -5 and a hook, but something's weird. But what do you got here?
Something is weird. I agree. Sal's with you guys too, but I'm going the other way. Not only am I taking 5.5 on FanDuel TV, I gave out Bama -2.5 adjusted line at +210 for all the credit Kirby Smart and the Dogs have gotten over the past couple of seasons, which is deserved. Let's just keep this in mind, guys. That Nick Saban and the Tide are still 8-1, 8-1 straight up in the last 9 games versus Georgia. Bama definitely was looking ahead last week versus Auburn, but somehow escaped with a W. And quarterback Jalen Milroe has been playing his best football of the season of late. I'm banking on a huge game from him. He can run. He's been doing a lot of running in the second half of the season where he wasn't in the first half. Had 12 rushing touchdowns this year. Something about Georgia's quarterback, Carson Beck, doesn't do it for me. They played a very soft schedule. So I'm taking, and I can't believe it because I really don't like Nick Saban, but I'm taking Saban over Smart here. I'm taking Bama.
Don't take Iowa, Graham. We know who Harry's going to pick on that game.
Yeah. Well, we got Louisville, Florida State first. Louisville, Florida State first. Louisville +1.5 against the Florida State, again, without their star quarterback. Louisville, a little shaky last week. This was a popular pick before then. I think Florida State gets this done. I don't know. Part of it is me rooting for the committee to be like the system that they came up with. The playoff system is so jacked up, and I understand they did it originally to try to keep the bowls, but they created 10 years of needless angst by having 5 power leagues for a long time, and even other teams that deserve to be in, and 4 spots. Again, it's the old. I've said it before many times. You got 5 kids, you got 4 meals, 1 doesn't eat. That's bullshit. And the whole system is bullshit. And I believe the people who came up with the system, this leads to their obituaries. I've said that for a long time. So I want the chaos for the final 14 playoff. I want there to be no true champion because somebody didn't get in who might have won the whole thing. I want this to be jacked up. Give me Florida State. Where are you, Jason?
Yeah, this is a fade for me because who's going to play quarterback? Keon Coleman for Florida State? I know that they have more talent, but, Louisville +1 and a hook. I guess, Harry, give me Louisville +1 and a hook. What do you got?
I'm with Graham on this one. I know Jordan Travis really hurts the Noles a lot. They're back up. Didn't have any touchdowns last week. But they banked on running back Trey Benson last week and came through with 3 touchdowns and a 9-point win versus their rival Florida. Last year in the regular season, Florida State beat the Cards by 4 in Louisville. So much on the line here for Florida State. I think they find a way to get this done. And I'm going to take the Noles. I think they stay undefeated. And before the season started, on Against All Odds when we did our future bets, I gave out Florida State over 9.5. I gave them out to win the ACC. I'm not backing out now.
All right, the big game of the week, the chance for Kirk Ferentz to have a statue at Michigan State, at Ohio State, a lot of places, maybe even at Iowa. Michigan -22, and this line has come down. I've seen even 21.5. It was at 23.5 at one point. Minus 22 versus Iowa. Iowa, look, Iowa's shit. Michigan State is Iowa. I mean, we've seen the game. And the reason I'm all over Michigan here, and I'd even be willing to buy the point some places that allow you to do that to get down to 21, but I don't think you need to do it. We've seen Michigan beat Iowa 49-0. We saw it at Spartan Stadium. That's who Iowa is. They're no better than that. And it's 22 points. That unless Michigan turns the ball over some ridiculous amount or just knows they just have to win and they want to get – the problem is Iowa doesn't even have the capability for backdoor covering. Once they get down 2 touchdowns, that might as well be 35 touchdowns, or down 2 touchdowns beyond the spread even. Give me Michigan, hammer this. Jason, where are you?
Yeah, I heard the rumor is, Graham, if Iowa wins, Brian Ferentz gets a 6-year deal. That's
fair
the rumor.
enough.
That's
fair
the
enough.
rumor. By the way, the team total -7 and a hook was -230 for Iowa. So how the fuck am I going to pick Iowa at any point in this game? Give me Michigan -22. What do you got here?
Guess what, boys? I'm taking the Hawkeyes.
Oh,
whoa!
I'm taking the Hawkeyes. Listen, we know Michigan's defense has been amazing all year. Michigan, I'm just thinking. I'm forgetting about the spread. I'm forgetting about just like how this game people will think this goes. Basically, listen, we know Michigan. All they have to do is win. They do not have to be impressive. They don't impress anybody. They don't want any injuries. They don't want to have to blow out this opponent like Texas or Alabama might have to. They don't have to. We know Iowa slows it up. They don't want to get embarrassed. This is stupid that this is even the Big Ten championship game. But in Iowa's defense, 8 straight games, the Hawkeyes have allowed less than 17 points. I know the Wolverines have been focusing a lot on the rushing game lately, but McCarthy still has gone for under 150 yards passing in 3 straight games. This is a crap game. I get it. Michigan in a snoozer wins this game 26-6.
Harry, I know you watched, a lot of Vietnamese table tennis, and you're usually, boring sports. But I mean, seriously, it's Iowa, man. I mean, they've given you enough sample size of how much ass they are offensively.
It's Korean, but who's counting?
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
Yeah.
Harry went against Michigan on Iowa. Of all the games, Harry, I am stunned. You are a legend, and
see if you like this, Grant. On the FanDuel, I did a couple crazy pluses. So on this one, Sal gave me the availability to take this one. I did take Iowa up to plus 24.5, more than 3 scores, and I laid $1.58 on that one. How about that? Plus 24.5.
Oh,
tremendous.
Yeah,
Tremendous.
Tremendous.
All right. All right. Lions. Let's do the NFL now. And Iowa 26-6 will not get the statue built, but it will be surprising to me. Lions -4 at the Saints. I can't believe this line because the Lions have been so bad defensively. The Lions are going to have to beat somebody and stop somebody before I'm back on them as a favorite, a road favorite against not a good team, but not an awful team. They're a team that may still win that division. Give me the Saints. I mean, I can't take the Lions right now until I see something else after what we've seen the last 2 weeks from Jared Goff. Jason, where are you?
Did you watch that Saints-Falcons game? I mean, the Saints are ass. And here's the thing. This could be my last show. If Derek Carr sits back and torches the Lions defense like Jordan Love did, I'm done. I'm going to break something. There's no way possible. But for the sake of gambling, I like the Saints plus the 4 at home. I hope I'm absolutely wrong, but for the sake of this conversation, I would take the Saints plus the 4. What do you got, Harry?
Guys, I'm on the Lions. Look, they certainly have been shaky lately. Last 3 games, gave up 38 to the Chargers, should have lost to the Bears, and laid an egg on Thanksgiving to Green Bay. But Goff gets it together versus the Saints. The Saints' wins this year have been against the Titans by 1, Carolina by 3, the Pats, Colts, and the Bears. Detroit second in the NFL still in yards, third in the passing yards, and third in time of possession. They're averaging 27 points per game. New Orleans is 30th in sacks. I think that's big here. New Orleans 30th in sacks, which means no pressure on Goff. He'll have plenty of time to find his receivers. I think Detroit wins big in the Big Easy by 2 touchdowns.
Go Lions, restore the roar.
By the way, the Derek Carr thing threw me. I actually have a stat here, and here would be my bet for this game. The Lions have scored on 44% of their drives in the first half since Week 8, tied for 7th best in the NFL. The Saints defense has allowed scores of 54% of opponent drives in the first half since week 8, second worst in the NFL. It's -2.5. Lions -2.5 first half, -118. You can probably shop around, find something a little lower, but I love that bet, boys.
It's nice.
So I still like the Lions, but I'm saying if I at face value, Saints +4, I don't know.
I'm scarred by what I've seen the last 2 weeks from Jared Goff and the Lions, and I know they had that great comeback against the Bears. They're just not playing that well. It's not that they won't come out of it. It's not that I don't think they're not a good team. I just need to see it before I would bet it. 49ers -3 at the Eagles. I'm on the Eagles here. I'm sorry, home dog, getting 3, and I know the Niners are back and all that stuff, and the Eagles have not always been impressive. I think these are even teams, and you're giving me a home dog. I'm on the Eagles. I just it's that simple. And what I think is a pick'em game. Jason, where are you?
I don't know. When the 49ers opened at -2.5, I jumped on that because, I mean, the Eagles, what do they have? Play the Cowboys next week against the Bills. They had a rough one there at home against the Bills. So give me the 49ers -3, and I kind of like it a lot. What do you got here?
Yeah, I'm with it, Jay, on San Fran. After losing 3 straight, they've looked dominant winning 3 straight, all by double digits. Purdy, McCaffrey, Samuel, Ayuk, they've looked flawless over that time. Philly keeps winning, but has won just by a total of 19 points in their last 4 wins. That Buffalo win you just mentioned, I think, took a lot out of them last week in the rain. And you mentioned also that they have Dallas on Sunday night next week. The Niners look better, especially on defense right now. Cox and Lane Johnson for the Eagles are really banged up. I got San Fran winning this one on Sunday by 7 to 10 points.
Holy smokes, really? Wow.
Harry's so confident. He's giving, by the points.
That's impressive.
You know he's on a roll if he's doing that.
First of all, that's really bad news for the Lions postseason chance. If the 49ers are 7 to 10 points better than the Eagles in Philadelphia, then the Lions are fucked in the postseason.
But it's the NFL. It's wonky.
Well, yeah, you know, it's the NFL, but also if you look what Philly, this run of Philly, the teams that they've had to play, and they're pulling these games out, law of averages, they're going to drop one here, and I think they really want. I mean, if they drop this to San Fran, but beat Dallas next week, they'll be just fine with that.
All right, Chiefs -5.5 at the Packers, the upstart Packers, the soon-to-be wild card Packers, perhaps Super Bowl champion Packers. After what we saw last week in Detroit, I'm on the Chiefs here though. The Chiefs need this one. I think they'll be the 1 seed potentially at stake if they get this. Inside of a touchdown, I know the Chiefs don't often cover spreads. They've been close a lot this year. I know it's in Green Bay. I just have this gut feel on the Chiefs this week. I like the spot, and I'm taking the Chiefs. Jason, where are you?
Listen, the Packers are overrated because of the Thanksgiving Day game. They played the Lions, no pressure on the quarterback. They beat the Chargers at home. But do we remember, boys, the Packers gave up 23 points to the fucking Steelers offense. The Chiefs have allowed 9.4 points per game on the road. I'm hammering this one. Give me the Chiefs -5 and a hook. What do you got here?
Wow. You know what, guys? I'm on Green Bay. Somehow the Packers are not dead yet. Their hopes of a wild card berth are still there with 3 wins in the last 4 games. They have either won or lost by 1 to 6 points, guys, in their last 5 of 6 games. Jordan Love over his last 2 games looked really good. 600 yards, 5 touchdowns, and most importantly, 0 picks. Kansas City scored in the second half last week for the first time in the last 4 games. 2 of their 3 losses have been against NFC teams. This is Mahomes' first game at Lambeau, night game, 50% chance of possible snow on Sunday. I love the pack in the points here. Like what I did there, guys?
You know,
I love the pack.
What's scary is your confidence, though, in your voice. We know that's what was scary, and especially if we're going the opposite of you. Maybe we do actually have to change these, Graham.
I know that I'm scared about a lot of my picks this weekend based on being opposite of Harry.
But then again, you guys, you know how much I can't stand Andy Reid and the Chiefs.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
maybe
yeah.
it's you know how it goes.
Right.
I'm against the Chiefs every single week just because. So.
All right. Anything else either of you guys really like this weekend?
No, man. Give your boring ass soccer parlay.
Oh.
How about this, guys? I got this one for you for a team total. By the way, team total. I like the Texans are playing the Broncos. I'm actually very interested in this game. I can't wait to see this one. I'm going to take the Texans team total versus Denver under 25.5 points at -106. 5 of the Texans' last 7 games, they've scored less than 25.5 points. And this Denver team is coming in hot, especially on the defensive end. They have forced 15 turnovers in their last 4 games. That's crazy. And they have allowed just 16 points per game in their last 6. 26 points sounds a lot to ask from Houston here. I'm going to take the Texans under 25.5 points.
Well, Harry, I trust you, and so I'll be on the Texans under 25.5 points. But okay, I got a couple soccer things for you, Harry.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I'm getting a little carried away.
You only get 2 soccer things. If people only get 2 Twitter questions, 2 soccer things, go.
Well, and the problem is there's midweek games. There's all sorts of stuff coming up. It's overload for me. There's a lot of stuff I like. I like a flyer on Wolverhampton on the Wolves plus 1,000 at Arsenal. Just throwing that under as an underdog. Good. They punched up. Arsenal's been winning with great defense and not scoring a ton. I'm not. Look, it's a flyer. It's plus 1,000, right? It's just one of those things that. But I also like at home. I like a 3-leg parlay favorites. Brentford at home minus 221 against Luton Town. The Liverpool at home minus 409 against Fulham, and then also Man City minus 380 at home against Tottenham. Pays out decently, about a little better than even money. I just think it's a nice favorites parlay that I think all 3 are going to cash. I'm kind of on Everton too against Nottingham Forest. I like the matchup. I also like Newcastle at home against Manchester United. Those are all the games I'm on this weekend. If people want to be on them or not, no guarantees, but I like that parlay as well.
You've been on Brentford a lot lately.
Brentford is a good play. They're usually a good play. They usually punch up. I don't love them often as a favorite. I do this weekend. I think they'll beat Luton Town at home. So that's where I am. I think there's money to be made in the Premier League this weekend. I took a bath last week so I am definitely due. Harry, you are a beautiful man. We appreciate your insight, and we'll look forward to your Iowa pick paying off. Many times over.
We'll see. Guys, enjoy the games this weekend. Let's hit something, boys.
Sounds great. That's a great Harry Gagnon from Against All Odds with Cousin Sal and The Ringer, and that is what we're betting this weekend in our picks, presented by Firekeepers Casino and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. Download the app today. Enjoy the sign-up bonuses and bet the games we are betting. We will be right back, and we will dig into your Groovy Donut Twitter questions. Couch in the Roop.
Firekeepers Online Casino and Sportsbook is the site to play. Get in on the action with pre- and in-game wagering. You can go green or blue on Saturdays or Lions on Sundays, plus hockey and hoops. Get your first casino deposit match up to $500. Plus, bet $5 on sports and get $100 in free bets. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and located in Michigan. Gambling problem? Call the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117. Come enjoy irresistible, award-winning, handcrafted donuts and locally roasted coffee at Groovy Donuts. Surprise your family or coworkers with special holiday designs and flavors, or put the perfect finishing touch on an event with a custom order. Birthdays, weddings, gender reveals, our friends at Groovy Donuts are your answer. Experience the Groovy Donuts difference for yourself on Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing or in Williamston. Get more information or place an order at groovydonuts.com. Where else can you cheer on your team, enjoy a mouth-watering burger or savory sushi, sip on handcrafted cocktails, or one of 46 beers on tap? Take your game day or date night to Cask & Company Kitchen Bar or Front 43 Neighborhood Pub near Frandor. 2 amazing places with one awesome blended modern American Asian menu. Catch the game on one of 30 60-inch TVs or stop in for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Enjoy happy hour or elevate your night out at Cask & Company or Front 43 on East Saginaw in Lansing.
Find our live stream, podcast archives, as well as show, affiliate, and sponsorship information at our website, spotlightmediastudios.com.
Couch in the Roo, presented by Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook, and also our Friday show brought to you by our friends at Front 43 Neighborhood Pub and Cask & Company Kitchen and Bar. If you are looking for a place to just park your butt this weekend, enjoy a beer, enjoy a meal, enjoy the vibe, and watch some great games, be it Premier League or all the football, the American football. Front 43 and Cask & Company is a great place to do it. You can start at Front 43, sitting at the bar, invite your spouse out for a date, next door at Cask and Company. Games are still on. You don't miss a thing. You can pretend to listen. It is the ideal place to pretend to listen to your spouse. Front 43 in Cask and Company, just north of Frandor on East Saginaw and Lansing, near the Lansing-East Lansing border. Go to caskandcompany.com to check out their menu to make a reservation. Very easy to make a reservation there, by the way, at caskandcompany.com. I often would do it on nights we were playing softball. If we wanted to go there, we would finish our game. I would go on the website, put the time in. They'd have a table reserved for me in like an hour. It was absolutely perfect. Go to caskandcompany.com. All right, it is time now to dig into your Groovy Donut Twitter questions. Jason, are you ready, sir?
Yeah, man. Eric Schultz up first. What does it say about Hogard that even as a senior, he seems to regularly need some magic halftime epiphany in order to give a real effort? Does he have the biggest effort problem of all the players you've covered at MSU?
No, I mean, there have been other guys who have, I don't know if it's even effort. There have been other guys. I mean, Brandon Dawson was a guy who had motor issues, right? And that was, we're seeing that word used a lot with Xavier Booker right now. Effort, and I don't think effort is it. I think he gets moments where he's mentally lacks focus. And I do think in some ways he doesn't fight through fatigue the way maybe a Tyson Walker does. But I don't think it's an effort problem. I don't think it's a desire problem. It's just a little bit of it's a little bit of who he is. And I'm not saying it's not problematic, because it creates inconsistency, the mental lapses and I guess effort is, I just don't know if effort's the right word, but I know what you're getting at.
Next one from Eric. Being a noted newspaper columnist, I'm sure you've heard rumors on potential transfer QBs. If you were a fan and based on the info you have, would you be worried about the state of MSU's quarterback room next season?
Not yet. And this is just me. I mean, I don't have a ton of information on where they're going to go. I don't have a ton of sourcing in Jonathan Smith's staff at this point. So I don't know what he's going to do. He's a quarterback's guy. So you have to sort of trust his evaluations. There are a lot of them out there on the market, including 3 who were in Michigan State's locker room last year who you never know what they'll decide. So I think you got to let it play out. This is and, you don't know the NIL situation with the Michigan State. I would tend to think if there's a quarterback they really want and it requires some NIL money, that NIL money will be there for a quarterback especially. So I would say at this point, based on the fact that they hired a quarterback and an offensive guy and a guy who's been able to land quarterbacks in the transfer portal and recruit heralded quarterbacks at Oregon State, like, to me, I would say no. Now, in January, we'll look at the roster, and I could be completely wrong on that, but my gut says no.
Dominic next. Ryan Day has lost 3 in a row to Michigan. Graham said to be on the hot seat, you would need to lose 5 straight, which would be 2 years from now. Holy motherfucking shit, Graham. Is there anything on earth that could happen that isn't 2 years away from being a tough decision?
Apologies there. Yeah,
apologize to the microphone.
Yeah, sorry. Laugh did not sound great.
Everything's 2 years. That's why he's so smart. That's why he can get you.
This is who
That's
I
why
am.
He's a good spin guy.
Yeah, this speaks to who I am in life. It's why I didn't get married till I was 36.
Caution.
Nothing starts for 2 years. I delay everything 2 years in life. All tough decisions. It's
I was telling T the other day, we were watching something, and I was like, Graham would be a good lawyer. I mean, he's not that old where he could go to law school.
I would hate law school. And I would always...
Well, yeah. I'm sure people don't enjoy law school. They always bitch about it. But, I mean, you're a good spin guy.
Yeah, I would be okay in trial, but I would... there's a lot of
stuff. Then we
I
could go watch you, like if you were doing a trial. I mean, it would be great.
I would be more dramatic than I was effective. That would be the problem. That's the... I once went to fight a traffic ticket, and I'd gone 90, and I was like 19 years old, driving up to a Hooters near Flint with a buddy on the way to a Pistons game.
They would let you drink at that one.
I believe so. Yeah. Anyway, had my old 1990 Celebrity station wagon and got pulled over for doing 90 and a 70. And they were pissed at me, 90 and a 70. Like, they were yelling at me through the microphone thing, like, pull up, oh, shit. And I took them to court because my argument was that my 1990 Celebrity station wagon did not do 90. It started to shake at 85. And so I was excited. I knew this. I knew there's no way I'm going 90. I mean, that car sounded awful at 85. So I get there, and there's no judges. It's just a magistrate. But nonetheless, the cop is there and whatever. And I'm excited to present my case like an episode of Law & Order.
Mm-hmm.
So I stand up and immediately say, you can just do this from your seat. Oh, shit. It ruins the mojo completely. So now I'm seated. It's hard to present a great argument. So I present my argument that there's no way I could have been doing 90. The car shakes at 85. Max is at 85. So the judge looks at the police officer and says, are you good if we just knock it down to 85? I did not see that flaw in my logic. You see what my problem? I was dramatic in presenting this. It was still a ticket for 85 and a 70. I still lost the battle. I didn't see where this was going to go.
Wait, but why was this officer yelling at you through his megaphone, whatever they use in their vehicle? Like you're in a
young
celebrity
kids
station wagon. Like what?
Going 20 over, they thought. I don't know. It must have seemed dangerous. I don't know.
And you're white, so I mean, what was the problem there?
I was
white privilege.
I was up to no good. That is a story almost worth telling, by the way, presented by our friends at Midtown Brewing Company in downtown Lansing. Great place for a drink on a weekend, a date night, brunch on Sunday, trivia Tuesdays. Go to midtownbrewing.net.
By the way, you mentioned Law & Order. You know who loves Law & Order?
Who's that?
Scott Docterman.
How do you know that?
I don't know. Ask him. Dominic, last show, Graham was discussing both myself and Harbaugh regarding the Bears' potential job opening. Then Graham said, he's such an annoying prick. Who, Graham? Me or Harbs? Well, you're still at the top of the show, so Dominic, you know who.
Yeah, Dominic, it was not you. It was not you. Don't worry. You're good. You're 100%.
I think he was joking. Yeah.
By the way, I apologize. Like I did Spartan Speak with Solari last night, and I sounded good. Like I thought I was. I think the problem was I didn't do my regimen of meds, and I got up and I moved around a lot today, and I just cajoled too much. Whatever it is, I sounded great. My energy's good. I just don't sound great. Like it's the worst possible situation.
Yeah, you sound like you've been doing coke in the bathroom for half an hour.
Yeah, no, I feel good. I thought I was good to go today. Part of it's the bright lights here. They come on. It
is hot in here.
Yeah. But I apologize because I actually feel good. I would not be here if part of the reason didn't push for a midweek show is I was not up to it. I would not be here if I didn't feel good.
I wondered what was going on. Dominic, I don't like the way you used all caps to say up to 2 Twitter questions. Jason, will you play Cockburn and then Tucker? We don't have time for that soundbite. Thank you.
Cockburn.
Yeah, we don't have enough time for all of that.
Cockburn.
Appreciate you, Dominic.
Plus size volleyball dad. Since our NIL program can only afford Olivet's quarterback, who is paying for all the portal QBs we're linked to?
I mean, that is the question right now, and it's what is their NIL situation and how much is it trusted? It's going to be used against them in recruiting for sure. MSU still has SD4L listed as their official NIL collective. I think it needs a rebrand. I think they need an explanation. I'm curious to see where it goes. I mean, it like to me, I understand that there may be frustrations for somebody like Steve St. Andre, and it is your money, and people don't want to just burn their own money. And look, there is almost no return on investment with NIL. There just isn't, and this is a big problem with it. Your return on investment is you get to see your team win. That's it. Your kid's inheritance goes down. Everything sucks. You don't get Spartan points right now. That's what they're going to have to fix. They're going to have to make the problem is the schools still need you to donate to the athletic department, but they're going to have to make it so there is a point system. There is something that people truly understand how it works, similar to like the Spartan Fund with the NIL. That's going to have to thoroughly explain to people, and then the secondary donors are going to have to be more on board. It was I think poorly run and poorly explained and not enough time given. And then I know that you may think a lot of guys are going to leave so you don't want to pay them, but more guys are going to leave if you pull out the NIL from under them. There's more damage done. I think there was a lot of damage done, and I know people at MSU who are sensitive to Steve St. Andre's feelings, and I don't know Steve, all right? But I think there was damage done in the way that was done, and it could have been avoided by paying a couple more months, by staying in the foxhole with those guys who had stayed together. I think that would have been the play.
Plus size volleyball dad. Chances Gavin no longer attends MSU since they ran off his QB.
Gavin is resilient. I think Gavin still goes to MSU.
I mean, you could still, wherever Caton Hauser goes, Gavin can watch.
Right.
And be a fan from there, from afar.
He'll get over it. But he was all in on here's the thing. When the Denver Broncos ran off Dan Reeves in the 90s, I became a New York Giants fan briefly.
What?
For Dan Reeves. I was still a Broncos fan. But the Giants became my third team because I like this 60-year-old man coaching the Giants. Like that was how – that's when you're a kid, you got weird feelings about things. And I had weird feelings. So I liked the Giants as my third team for like a year and a half. And then I was like, what am I doing here? Why do I care about Dan Reeves? But that was –
If you think those are weird things, wait till you turn 15.
Oh, yeah. But
It gets really weird.
Gavin's already been through that. So
yeah, it's true. Twice. Spartan Johnny next. Couch, as much as you can be semi-elitist, you are very good at allowing people to pick on you and letting it roll off your back, making you somewhat endearing. What are some of your keys to success in not taking things personally?
this is a great question.
Because he knows, because the way you tweet, you know people are going to come at you. And on this show, it's all in good fun. Like the bus balls here, right?
Yeah, I mean, part of it is, I take myself seriously in certain aspects, but I don't take myself too seriously. And I don't think, I think the other thing is you have to, like, I wouldn't say, like, I don't enjoy getting made fun of, like, in middle school, but you know what I mean? Like, I enjoy good banter. And I don't think I'm better than anybody else. I think that's the key. You have to deep down recognize that what you do doesn't make you superior to anybody out there. And if that's not at your core, like you can pretend that, but at your core, if you don't recognize that everybody's, there are opinions that are better than you and you're going to make mistakes and all that stuff, then it's going to come off so yeah, I don't take things personally because I don't think the other thing is, one of the things I enjoy about this show is I don't think a lot of the shots at me are personal. I can tell when a shot's at me is personal, and there are things I get offended by when there are people I care about who are upset with me. But the other thing is, if somebody you don't know behind a keyboard does take a personal shot at you, they don't know you. They don't really know. So
or Dan Dockage.
Dan. Well, he's just a moron, right? So like, I mean,
I'm not blocked anymore. So like, did he get a new account or I don't?
Well, I think what
not
it
that
is
I care, but I just knew that he blocked me or something.
Yeah, I don't know what some of the stuff is. Yeah, because I had him muted and then the other day and it might be a thing with Elon and what level of subscriber he is. I don't know what that is, but yeah, no. Anyway, I would say the big thing is just not taking yourself too seriously and understanding most people aren't taking personal shots at you and that you are flawed and all that stuff. And thank you for calling me somewhat endearing. That is what my wife calls me once in a while. I mean, Zion was a big deal because he was a huge guy, and I just broke my chair.
You've had too many donuts, mate.
Spartan Johnny next, playing the hits here, but Couch associating troughs to pissing with some of the nostalgia is not only borderline insane, but gross as fuck. Like, even if it was something you enjoy, why would you ever talk about it out loud like it's something normal? Appreciate you. Again, I think he knows, yeah.
It's a fair question.
Yeah.
I heard, and there was another podcast I was listening to the other day where they were talking about old stadiums.
Talking troughs.
Yeah, and
new podcast.
How gross they were. And I'm just like, again, I'd like Dan Reeves in the 90s. Like, what? Liking Dan Reeves is no more weird than liking troughs. Like, when you're a kid, there are things that you like because you're a kid and they conjure up certain feelings. It's like walking up at Tiger Stadium, the ramp, and seeing the green grass that's so green it hurts and it's beautiful. There are certain things that you remember that give you a certain fondness for a certain place, and troughs are part of that magical experience.
If you're playing the Graham Couch drinking game, take 2 shots because he just compared Dan Reeves to a trough. So that's impressive. Andrew Gauthier, Graham, what would you do if RSN or if you ran into the person who got you sick during your travels?
So I already so the woman, and I don't know who it was, and it could have been anybody, and germs are everywhere. And so it's based on the timing. It probably wasn't this woman, and it happens to everybody. And the timing, other than missing Jonathan Smith's intro presser, which I don't even enjoy that style of presser, and we'll get into that in a minute because there's some questions coming up on that. Wasn't that bad? But I would, the guy she was with, he was waiting for her in the bathroom when we got off the plane. And I spoke loudly to my wife about, because my wife had been up in first class. She had got a first class. We had gotten one bump, and I gave her the seat because that's what you do, by the way. So she was way up there, like drinking and eating all the, like, caviar, and it was an incredible experience. I'm back in first class with an Ebola patient, and reclining into my knees, and it was just dreadful. And so I just started speaking about how she never should have been on the plane, how bad it was, right in front of this guy. But if I ran into her, I think I would just tell her, like, you're an ass, like that sucked, because it just sucked, because it's not even that. Like, I understand having an unexpected coughing fit or something. You think you're okay and it happens. But I would be mortified if it happened to me. Like, I would immediately ask for a mask. I would immediately try to keep myself covered and ask for what. I would try to. It was just, there was no consideration for people around her. No mask, sometimes covering the mouth. The whole area was just looking at her like, what the hell is going on here? It was constant. It was that deep cough that there's something wrong with you.
So you're going to clean the microphone after the show?
Oh, yeah. Don't worry.
It's Andrew Gauthier. Are we more likely to upgrade or downgrade the quarterback position based on the number of good prospects in the portal? Any chance of Dante Moore coming home? And from Patrick D. Bird, who do you believe are the top 5 QBs in the portal that MSU has a realistic chance to land?
So starting there, I don't know, because there are a lot of these guys now. I mean, you got the guy at Coastal Carolina, Oregon State, UCLA, all these guys that seem intriguing. The question, I think this is where you got to trust Jonathan Smith a little bit, is he is a QB's guy. Like, he is a guy who is going to evaluate these guys and may have a different read than what their recruiting ranking was. For example, Dante Moore, 5-star quarterback, had some moments, but also didn't look great at UCLA, but was a true freshman. A guy who works with quarterbacks, who was a quarterback, is going to look at that film and decide whether that's a guy he thinks he can fix and turn into something. He may not. Or Dante Moore may not want to come home. So like I think it's really hard for me. I have no idea where his head is there. But I do have, just because of his pedigree, a little bit of trust in that the person they choose or the person they get will be somebody they think can play the position at a decent level. Are likely to upgrade or downgrade? I think it's a downgrade most likely if it's not Sam Levitt, because I was really high on Sam Levitt. I still think Sam Levitt, wherever he winds up, is going to be a big-time quarterback. There's enough that I saw in him potentially, and if I were Jonathan Smith, and I read the David Harns interview with Sam Levitt, where Levitt said that he wasn't recruited at Oregon State. He was a hometown kid, and he wasn't picked by Jonathan Smith, and he still has hard feelings. I would try to smooth those over. I would try to explain it and try to get him. Now, that may be the ego of an 18-year-old that you're not going to get past, but I would want Sam Levitt. And the one advantage of getting one of these young transfers, like a Dante Moore or the freshman from Oregon State, is in the new era of the transfer portal, of one-time transfers. If you get them to transfer after the freshman year, they're there. They're done. That's it. They're not leaving you. Whereas Sam Levitt could decide a year from now, I don't want to be there, and that's the trick of the transfer portal. It's almost best to get a guy who goes, and I think you're going to have to, Sadie Washington back in the day, when he's now the assistant coach at Michigan, but when he was an assistant at Oakland, and they were way ahead of the game on this, he would recruit kids that he knew they had no shot to get, but he knew that would probably make a mistake where they were actually going to wind up. They're going to wind up at Texas. He knew it wasn't a great fit. He knew he'd get them on the rebound transferring. And yeah, back then they had to sit out. I think you're going to have to start doing that now. You're going to have to start recruiting kids and keep relationships going that may make a mistake. You may not get them originally, but if you can get them on that first transfer after their freshman year when they're unhappy, especially kids from the Midwest who go away, boy, then they can't. Then it's like the old days. They can't leave again. Then you got them. And so it'll be interesting to see. But Levitt is the guy that I think is as good as any of them. And that, so if you ask upgrade or downgrade, I would say a downgrade. And maybe the secret for a guy like Sam Levitt is to send him a box of Groovy Donuts. If everybody sent Sam Levitt a box of Groovy Donuts and just said, this is from Jonathan Smith, even though it wasn't, that might be the way to go. You can go to groovydonuts.com to place your order today, to send it to Sam Levitt. You could even get his face, little Spartan helmets, Jonathan Smith faces on. I do want to say I said once that they can make a perfect up to the whisker donut. I don't expect that. It is a donut. Remember that. But I think most people realize
and
that.
icing.
Yeah. But or just swing by Groovy Donuts and enjoy your own box of donuts on this great football Saturday, great Premier League weekend. 2 locations: Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing, or in Williamson. Open 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Thursday through Sunday.
Matt C. next. Who's the quarterback for MSU next year? Make it a saucy prediction.
Yeah, it's really hard for me to know. I think the best chance, if you had to predict one, like if you were to put betting odds out there, I would say it's one of the 3 who are already at MSU that comes back. Now, I tend to think all 3 are probably gone, but just in terms of somebody else. Now, Dante Moore's from Detroit. That would be a good pickup in the sense that Detroit inroads. If you think he can be a guy there at Michigan State, you can't transfer again, all that stuff. But I also think there's a chance that one of the 3 decides to stay. Caton Hauser went through some stuff. The fan base was tough on him. I don't think he had a great experience in the end, but he got to play a lot. I would say if you had an odds-on favorite at like 15%, it would be Caton Hauser.
Tyrone Plum next. Which portal QB would be the most effective at MSU over the next 3 years? Dante Moore, Caton Hauser, Childs, or another?
Sam Levitt, I think. But again, this is where you got to trust the guy. It's not like D'Antonio or Tucker, a defensive-minded guy who you don't, D'Antonio struggled with QB evaluations, no question, right? And I think Tucker was able to bring in some guys who were intriguing. I think Sam Levitt was a hell of a get. But I would say, basically, so I would say another. And I just, like Caton Hauser, I don't know what his ceiling is. And it's really, I think at times, I don't want to say I was harsh on him, but the problem is he was being judged by another young quarterback, and he didn't show arm talent that was overly impressive. But could a good quarterbacks coach get in there with him after all the experience he has and revive his confidence and get him going in the right direction? It's very possible. So it's hard for me to ask that. And I just haven't seen enough of Dante Moore. Childs, both guys on the West Coast a lot this year. Saw a little of them. Childs played not a lot, and Moore. I saw one game that Moore played where he actually played okay in the game I watched, but I just haven't seen enough.
Miller next. Alan Haller said he got off track at one point, and Jennifer Smith helped him focus. So is she who we should thank for this not being Urban?
That was not who he was when he said off track, and I didn't hear that part in terms of, or maybe that is that what he said.
That was Jason Candle, probably.
It was him. Well, at least in terms of what I know, I wasn't there to talk to Haller on Tuesday. I talked to him on the phone on Monday, late afternoon, early evening, and he repeated some of the stuff he told me to people at the press conference. There's some other stuff as well, but one of the things, it sounds like, at least from what I know, is they went and interviewed Jonathan Smith. He was the first of the 3 finalists they were going to interview in person. Now, at that point, they had really already interviewed him. It was basically a sit-down conversation and getting to know each other more and things like that. They interviewed one other person, which I believe to be Mike Elko. And at that point, the third person was going to be, I don't know if it was Jason Candle. I don't know if it was somebody else, but they were going to have to wait a minute, or it wasn't scheduled for a few days. And he started getting nervous, and he just wanted this. He had known for a couple weeks he wanted Jonathan Smith, and so they went ahead with it. And I don't know if that's what he's referring to, but one of the things he did mention to me is, I didn't use this analogy in the column I wrote, but he said sometimes a coaching search is like going to buy a new car, and you have an idea of what you want, you have the idea of the price you want to pay, and as you drive onto the car lot, you see other things, and you go, oh, that would be kind of fun, and you lose some focus, and so you get distracted by shiny objects. And he did say to me there were some people that would have been fan favorites that were among the considerations. I don't think that was Urban. That's my own personal take on talking to him. It's not that he was 100% against Urban, I don't think, but Urban was not, in his line of focus during those final few weeks.
John Rambo next. With Haller fully aware that he has to get this hire right, are you surprised he went all in on a guy with no Midwest ties? Or do you think that's been far less of a concern for him than it's been for fans?
He told me he had to get past that. And you know, he did like a grading system at one point where he was sort of grading people on different things, and he didn't get, you know, Jonathan Smith didn't get a good grade on that part, the MSU ties, the Midwest ties. But Haller also told me in October that was not going to be something that was going to prevent him from hiring somebody. Like, it was going to be a true national search. He wanted somebody who could build a program. He wanted somebody who could stabilize things and get them winning consistently. And so, you know, MSU ties sometimes haven't done MSU. Sometimes it's been great. Sometimes it hasn't in different coaching things. I think it was interesting, too, because he talked about some of the other hires he's made. And he's made some really good hires. And I think this is one of the reasons to trust Haller at this point. Adam Nightingale being number one. And Adam Nightingale, obviously, MSU ties, right? Was briefly on the staff for a while, played at MSU. You look at Leah Johnson, who I think has got the volleyball program headed in the right direction. No MSU ties. Robin Freilich, local person, but no real MSU ties. And one of the things he said is each program that he made that hire for needed something a little bit different. They needed a good coach and a win, but it needed something a little bit different. And the football program, and that had really taught him that. And he knew what the MSU football program needed, somebody a little different than Tucker, I think, in terms of personality and you know, obviously some other things too. But and what I think this hire tells you what he wants the football program to be as well. And he saw that in Jonathan Smith.
Miller up next with this one. Is Holloman having a 10-assist game more important than his 17-point game?
No. Because I think for this particular team, Holloman outside shooting and scoring is going to be more important to their ceiling if he's going to have a role that affects their ceiling, if that makes any sense. Like, because I still think is important as you know, is AJ Hoggard is, and I like, if there's a secondary answer, if it's not going to be Hoggard, if at some point they're going to turn away from Hoggard as the starting point guard, Jeremy Fears is the ceiling, and he's the guy who's going to have to develop fast this year. And you saw some things against Georgia Southern that were in that direction. He's not there yet, but I think Holloman playing a role where he stretches defenses and hits shots, and he's much better at that as a catch and shoot guy than he is off the bounce, I think is more significant. So I still think the game he hit 5 threes and duplicating that is more important. Now that he can fill in and be a jack of all trades, good. But this team has a couple jack of all trades like Malik Hall. They need a guy. They need a shooter. They really need him to be a shooter if he could.
Blissed out tuna next. Are Avon Barksdale and Trey Holloman related? If so, what advice did Avon have for Trey last game?
So Avon Barksdale's from The Wire, the character on The Wire,
and Above the Rim.
Yeah, Above the Rim. He's also played. He was also in Winning Time. Really good. I should look. Hold on. Let me get the actor. Give me some Hoff if you would.
I got you. Hold on.
Oh yeah.
Woo. Woo.
Absolutely. I mean, fucking everybody masturbates.
Cockburn.
I'm not talking about it.
All right, I found it. I'm just going to listen to that all day, though. So that's part of the problem. Yeah, Wood Harris, whose first big role was in Above the Rim, by the way, in 1994. It's amazing. It's been almost 30 years since that movie came out. But he was also played Spencer Hayward in Winning Time. Was fantastic in The Wire, and amazing in his 50s. Played Spencer Hayward in Winning Time. But the part of the reason when I look at Trey Holloman and I am intimidated is because I see Avon Barksdale. Like, I see that Baltimore gangster every time I look at Trey Holloman. And he's the nicest kid in the world. But if he came at me in an alley, I would have pissed down my leg.
Does Trey Holloman know that he looks like Avon Barksdale?
I don't know, but I'm going to have to do that column because it's just
wow.
It's too much fun.
Are you going to talk to Avon Barksdale?
Well, I mean,
you can talk to Trey Holloman. And you can talk to Avon Barksdale.
Yeah, or talk to Wood Harris. Yeah,
Wood Harris. Sorry,
yeah,
I'm calling him Avon Barksdale. Wood Harris. Yeah,
yeah. I would. I don't know if I would, but I would talk to. He's a Chicago kid. Well, he's 54 now, but yeah, no. Anyway,
I mean, he's dead or what? I mean, it's 54.
Right? No,
that old.
Yeah, no. He's a good basketball player back in his day too. I'm not. I believe he. Oh, he went to Northern Illinois University too. Good.
Are you on his Wikipedia?
Yeah. Sorry. Well, let's go. Let's move on.
Suburban Spartan Dad. Of the guys who have entered the portal so far, who would be the biggest loss in your mind?
Sam Levitt. But it's a good question. Derek Harmon, maybe. On the defensive line, it's a really good. It's a good question. I just don't know how many are really going to leave. I think one of the best things that Jonathan Smith did at his press conference was make it very clear that nobody's being judged by being in the portal. In other words, it's like the guys who are in that locker room in January will be ready to go. He understands these guys have been through it. He understands in this day and age they need to sometimes look around, see what else is out there, and some of them might find something. A lot of them won't find anything better, and they're sort of welcome back. I think you have to do that, and I think a lot of them right now, the sense is, I don't know if I want this. I don't know this new coach. I'm not real happy with certain things. Maybe there's something better for me. I'm going to get in the portal, and I think the best thing if they still have a place there. Now, he's going to have to make some recruiting decisions and transfer portal decisions himself, so those conversations aren't just going to last till January. But I do think that I would if I had to guess, half the guys in the portal wind up coming back.
Suburban Spartan Dad, over under -1.5 MSU players who finish above 40%. Or wait, over under 1.5 MSU players who finish above 40% from three this year.
Yeah, boy, I would go under right now just because it's going to take.
What would the players have to do to start to get close?
They've got two guys who are kind of who they are is above 40%, and that's Tyson Walker and Jay Nakins, and so maybe Holloman gets. You know what? I would take the over. I would take the over because I think Akins or Walker will get there. And somebody else. Maybe Holloman gets there. It's a good question. That's a really good over-under. I would probably take the over, but it's even money.
Aledo next. Does Jackson Kohler or Carson Cooper translate to what we had with Ward or Tillman? It's been a minute since we've had a big that can dominate.
Well, Ward and Tillman are two very different players. Ward was, sometimes it was a good one-on-one defender at times, but talk about guys who lose focus and give up things. Tillman was an unbelievable defender at the end, but wasn't the offensive player Ward is. In a sense, they could be those two things separately, and if that's what you're asking, maybe. Ward was right off the bat, he could score at the college level, and Kohler, I think, has some of those traits and some skills that Ward didn't, but we haven't seen it translate. I'm curious to see what he looks like when he gets back, how much he's able to help. Cooper has some things going for him that Tillman didn't in terms of his length. But, and Tillman, by the time he was a sophomore and then junior, I think Tillman was ahead of Cooper. But I still think Cooper can be a terrific player. He's just not quite where Tillman is. I still think he can be a pro based on his hands and size and other things. But it's not going to be I'm not saying he's going to be a star in the pros. I'm just saying he's a guy who, with his length and skill, if he can develop a little bit of an offensive game, could be on a bench somewhere. And maybe I'm wrong on that. So, yeah, I think they need Kohler back now because what we've discovered about this Michigan State team is offensively they've got some real shortcomings in terms of spacing and shooting. And while Kohler doesn't solve that, he solves some other things. He gives you a big you can play through offensively and changes who you can be offensively. And I think that's really important because this team needs to become something different offensively.
Jarrett, next. Why should everyone root for A.J. Hoggard?
Because he's still the ceiling. I mean, it's sort of like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. But like that guy is still the guy who late in games in second halves can take over with his size and still a really good point guard. Get into the lane, cause havoc. MSU's ceiling, I still think, is tied to him, and for better or worse, and it may be worse, and that may be a problem. But the best version of A.J. Hoggard is still the best version of Michigan State.
Jarrett, what's the best college football team you have seen in person?
1995 Nebraska Cornhuskers. Amon Green, third-string running back. Lawrence Phillips, the starter. Bunch of guys who play in the NFL on defense, like 9 of them. Tommy Frazier. That's by far the best that I have personally seen.
Dave Lakin next. Before Saban left, he complained about MSU's in-state recruiting disadvantage. Before Tucker imploded, he complained about MSU's NIL disadvantage. Will Jonathan Smith be able to effectively deal with these issues? In the long run, does the transfer portal hurt him or help him?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it probably hurts him a little in the sense that I feel like Jonathan Smith is a good old school recruit and develop coach. And so the portal doesn't help those guys versus some other guys, and doesn't, especially at programs. We'll see what the actual finances are on the NIL and all that stuff. It's a really good question, and I think it is sort of the question about his ceiling. Like I think one of the things I think was smart in hiring Jonathan Smith is I think at worst Michigan State is going to be a 7-8 win team year over year with this guy. I mean, and that is a lot better vibe than where you were a year ago. The question whether there's a realm beyond that will be whether they can, and I think they'll develop some really good players, but whether they lose some of them and whether can retain them, and whether they can bring some supplementary pieces in that allow them to take the next step will largely depend on NIL and how much of a disadvantage and what what sort of school they're going to be in that. I just don't think we know yet.
All right, Michigan State Hockey Hub next. Graham, you didn't mention your grandma for 99 years. She turned 100, and you talked about it as often as you talk about your work at Western Michigan. What does the hockey team have to do to get that coverage? Jokes aside, appreciate you all.
Well, people got to keep reading, plain and simple. Like, they read the last column I wrote, did better than anything I wrote on football by a mile. Everybody who sent a report of that football game at Indiana, that was the wrong move. Like, hockey did better than football. The interest was bigger in hockey by a ways than football that weekend. But for 10 years, and I understand hockey was bad, we could have sent a beat reporter to every Pewamo, Westphalia boys basketball game, and we would have got better numbers than MSU hockey. And we got 40 high schools like that. Well, Pewamo, Westphalia does have a good audience. But what I mean is there has to be – it can't just be that, yes, this is the sleeping giant, that this used to be the hottest ticket in town. The evidence for a long time was that the audience really wasn't as fervent as you thought, because even an angry, apathetic, or downtrodden audience would have shown more than the MSU hockey audience shown for a decade. So that was a concern for us. But I think just keep reading. I mean, it's a great story. We're going to keep covering it more and more. We may even make decisions about keeping me around for a hockey series rather than a basketball game at times if this thing gets that exciting. I don't know if it'll ever get to that point, but the better they are, the more people are into it. It's clearly there. We will keep covering hockey, and I think there's more we should and need to do.
Matt Boone next. What did Mark D'Antonio think of Tucker before the scandal part? Was he a fan, or did he not like him before? Seems like he is more involved in the Smith hire.
Yeah.
He would never tell you, right? Even if he didn't.
He wouldn't say it. But what my understanding was, I mean, there were certain things he was a little – I mean, Mel Tucker would sort of boast about recruit like this being the best recruiting class ever, or best defensive line ever, and D'Antonio would think, well, I had a couple that were pretty good, but that's just usual stuff.
Tucker was talking about himself.
I don't think he minded Tucker. They were different people, but Tucker embraced D'Antonio, and D'Antonio played the retired coach part as well as anybody, and I think he enjoyed it. He supported the program. He was around. He didn't meddle. I think it was he'll go back to that, and I think that's a good place for him.
Matt Boone, should I be stressed about the hires Jonathan Smith picks, and how can you ease my mind? We won't be wasting money like what Tucker did.
I'll say this, because the guys he's bringing in from his own staff, at least, were actually a staff already. And I understand that Jay Johnson came from Colorado and whatnot, but like these were a staff that together built something once. So there is some of that. There's a little more proof in the pudding. That would be all I can say. We'll see who else he hires. I'm not going to promise. Nobody ever likes their offensive coordinator, but at this point, I think a step up from Jay Johnson for most people would be just about anything. So I don't know how to do that other than to say there's a little more proof in the pudding, especially as a guy who's already built something as a head coach.
Crum, next. What do you expect the biggest improvement this staff will bring when compared to the Mel era?
Well, it's an offensive staff, number one, so I think that side of the ball will be different. And I think you have to hope it's just a general competence and understanding what it takes to build, having done it at a place that doesn't have every advantage in the world.
Where are we? Oh, boy. Kurt, Jason, what's the projected over-under number of wins for MSU football in 2024? Well, I looked at the schedule here. Florida Atlantic, Maryland, Louisiana, Boston College. First 4 games, Graham. How many games do you think they win?
The Maryland one's the one I don't know.
Why? Because of Loxley and how many?
Yeah, and early on it's on the road.
Maryland teams.
Let's say they win 3 of those.
Okay. Ohio State, Oregon, Iowa, Michigan, Indiana win, Illinois, and Purdue and Rutgers. Oh boy. 4.5.
I think
seeing what he puts together for a team here, but
yeah, the over under probably will be 4.5. And you might, obviously we'll have to see who he's got in and all that stuff. The beginning will be interesting because there is a chance for some momentum there. You got to. If you could win at Maryland and at Boston College somehow. Now, Maryland, I would say 3-1 out of that first group. The problem is that stretch with Ohio State, at Oregon, Iowa, at Michigan, and maybe you can beat Iowa. I mean, if you get one of those, though, I wouldn't be – you're happy, because so at that point you could be at 4 wins already with Indiana, Illinois, Purdue, and Rutgers left. So, maybe it's 5. Maybe the over-under is I think they're a decent candidate to play the over next year.
MSU Stan next. Win-loss record for MSU next year if they get a good QB in the portal.
Yeah, then you're looking at 6, 7. I mean, the first year stuff is sometimes a fun year. Expectations are low. It's a new coach. There's a bit of a honeymoon period. I think John L. Smith, what did he win, like 9 games in his first year? People were all into that. Different John Smith. But, I would say, 6, 7 wins.
Kurt Wisniewski and JD. Graham, no MSU head coach of football, a football presser for you. What's the point of having media for a press conference if they aren't going to ask an actual question? The green tie question was atrocious. If you were, would you ask Coach Smith bagel, fragel, ice cream donut sandwich, or muskox flannel? And for Matt Venny, is it just me, or did it seem like the media questions during the Jonathan Smith press conference were attacking him a little bit? I was a little underwhelmed by the quality of the media during the Q&A session.
All right, so a lot to chew on here. Couple things.
I need to go back and watch this, I think.
Yeah, well, I watched it on BTN because I was home, and so it was a weird day. I was feeling, at one point I was like, I didn't feel awful yet, and I just felt low on energy, and so I took a COVID test, and it came back like that faint line positive. I'm like, crap. So I texted people, I'm not going to be there for sure. I was already debating it, but I didn't feel like I was like before that infectious or anything. And then I took 3 more COVID tests, all negative. Went and got a PCR, negative for the flu, all that. Just a bad head cold because of that fucking woman on the plane. But anyway, that's why I wasn't at the presser. And these press conferences, I'll start here. These press conferences are not fun the way these are set up, and I know why MSU does them. They don't do them in a where they usually do a press conference. They do them in the Hall of History with the Gilbert Pavilion at Breslin Center because it's a bigger deal. They have the band, they have the cheerleaders, it's a shindig. They have lots of fans and donors, and then within that they have a press conference, and you give them the mic, and it becomes kind of a show. It's not the ideal way to do a press conference, and most of the questions that are asked in sort of a media scrum afterwards with Jonathan Smith or with Alan Hallett. They're not in that setting. I rarely like to ask one in that setting. But it also lends itself to, like Fred Heumann asked the tie question. TV people are going to ask different questions than print people. I've often said it would be nice if those were separate press conferences sometimes. But Fred is somebody who does that sort of thing. And it works in other settings because he, in a less formal setting, he asks that, it's funny, and then he asks his follow-up. When you only have a few questions and you're going to get the mic for one, that doesn't work as well there. That's a very Fred Heumann question. He would joke about the World Series, or it is what it is. So it wasn't a great showing, but you're not going to get everything there. And you kind of know that when you're a reporter there, that this is not the place I'm getting stuff. Number one, stuff I don't want other people to have. I'm not asking, like in a press conference like that, that's televised on BTN, every other report, any question that I don't want every other reporter to know the answer to, I'm not asking there, because then it's out there for the world. There are times at press conferences I ask questions about things I'm not going to write about just to deflect people into thinking I'm writing about something different. So that's part of it. I didn't think people were attacking him. I thought the questions were okay-ish. Wasn't the greatest showing, but that setting sucks. It for that. I understand why they do it. I'm not saying it's not necessary. It's just not a great media actual setting to get what you want in terms of in the actual press conference.
I was seeing where Jonathan Smith was standing at the podium and like everybody just staring at you. That's got to be so wild. Just standing in that building with everybody just waiting and ready to rip your ass. JD, do people overvalue Ryan Day's record at Ohio State? I feel like with the resources available for that school and the garbage conference they play in, almost anyone could win 10 to 11 games there on an annual basis. People want to say that, but it's easier said than done.
Yeah. Man. What is he, like 39-2?
I think Ryan Day's ass, but I mean, come on. You can't just go in there. Anyone can't go into Ohio State and just start doing that, right?
They're a kick away from winning the national championship last year. And I would be real careful, about, and I don't think they're going to get rid of him. And no. I do think there comes a point where you have to beat your rival, but if that's the only team you're losing to, and the big problem for Ryan Day is even if they win next year, this was an opportunity lost. Like this was Michigan at the precipice and a chance to take them down. This was Michigan coming off a scandal where people were saying the only reason they beat Ohio State was they had cheated. And so if you then beat them, you lend credence to that as a program. Instead, it doesn't happen. And so now Michigan can say, look, it would have happened anyway. It wasn't really that big a deal. There was a lot that was lost that he can't get back. I think over the long haul, they're a better program. They've got more better talent, and he'll wind up beating Michigan plenty.
Speaking of the coach thing, were you impressed by Sharon Moore? I mean, like I hear people going like, oh, yeah, if Harbaugh leaves, he's their apparent. He's going to be stepping right up. I mean, Harbaugh still did he coached the team during the week. I'm not saying Moore did a terrible job, but people are ready to give this guy jobs and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I would say this. On game day, he was fantastic. I don't know if there's a lot of other things that go into head coaching, but he certainly passed that one part of the test.
All right. Matt Venny for Graham. Do you find that more you interact with MSU fans about the blue wall, you keep getting more and more exposed to it? Referencing the Dan Dockage Twitter thing earlier this week, despite being in the media, he constantly backs Michigan and trolls their rival fan bases.
Well, yeah, and Dockage is not part of the blue wall, though. He's not. Dockage is different. Dockage is not really. There's something a little off.
We should build a wall around Dan Dockage.
Yeah, it's something a little off there.
It's unbelievable. That guy went from like a color commentator guy that people kind of liked, but he was smug, to what he's doing now. It's just wild.
He was always an interesting duck, but he's gone off the rails a little bit. It's not a great situation there. But do I find interacting with MSU fans about the blue wall I get more exposed to it? I just think we have different definitions of it a little bit. And, there are, like, to me, people who are pro-Michigan are always going to be blue wall-ish because they're pro-Michigan. If you're a writer who is only a writer in this business because you love Michigan, and there are a lot of those. I mean, Sam Webb is not going to go cover Wichita State if he stops covering Michigan, right? He's not a journalist in the form of, hey, I got out of journalism school, let's find a town, whatever. Those guys are always going to be a blue wall. It's the Detroit media specifically the Free Press, and Detroit News that we talk about. And, you know, there are incidences, certainly with a couple of their columnists, where it lends a lot of credence to it. But I also know in terms of the decisions that are made and their editors that's not the way things are. That's not the way they think. But I've told you this. I'm not going to push back against it because every time I do, there's evidence that points in your favor.
Welcome to the blue wall.
David Cox, did you see the glorifying headline for the cheater Stallions?
So yes, this is something people are pointing at a lot today. And the Free Press maybe shouldn't pick this up, but it was a decent story. USA Today, which is part of the network, the Lansing State Journal and Detroit Free Presses, wrote a story about Stallions, and the headline was a little bit, I don't think glorifying, but it was about his path and journey and all this stuff. And the Free Press just picked up the story, as they're welcome to do, and it went through their auto tweets as they picked up the story. It's an interesting story. People would want to read. It goes through their auto tweets. People think, boom, the Free Press did not write that story, did not assign that story. They picked up the story. You can say they shouldn't have done it, but is it an interesting story? I don't see a problem with it. I think it's different if you know, the Free Press had written that and then framed it that way.
Amon Ra St. Nick, was Dan Dockich right? LSJ was complicit in not reporting Nassar?
No, this is where he's a moron. Like, and I'm gonna, because he puts this out there, and I'm not gonna keep replying to him. I did the first time on, but I'm you know, just ignore Dan Dockich. The Lansing State Journal was at the forefront, driving the coverage on Nassar for a year alone, mostly alone. The Indy Star, yes, broke the story. And that was, you know, the story. Somebody walked into the newsroom, kind of gave it to them, and to their credit, they did a great job early on. They kind of, once it became clear that it was not it was going to be an MSU story, because that's where the money was. Look, he was broke. USA Gymnastics didn't have any money. It became clear that this was going to be an MSU story. And we figured that out early on, a couple of our top editors with Matt Mancarini. And Matt Mancarini, if you go back and look at our Nassar coverage and look who else was covering it for a year, some of the detailed digging and stories and all the stuff we were doing, the LSJ drove that for a year, nobody else. And the Free Press, to their credit, used our stuff, and you know, because we had the guy doing it, and Matt's as good as anybody. And then when it became something that was going to be in the courtroom, and it was a national story that had juice to it because you had victims giving impact statements on TV and all that stuff, yes, everybody swooped in and everybody started writing about it. But this was a Lansing State Journal story. This was a local story for a long time, and was driven. And the Indy Star stopped covering it. Didn't cover it much at all. This was the Lansing State Journal driving the coverage. So for Dockich to say that is just bullshit. It takes. I mean, it's lazy on his part not to go back and look at all the coverage we did. I mean, he's just an ass, and he's just trying to be provocative. But so the LSJ was not only not complicit, but it drove the coverage for a year.
Amon Ra, Blue Wall update. Waiting on article about Connor Stallions and Blake Corum business partners. What about Weiss? Anyone want to ask Harbaugh a question other than about birds? They don't drunk at Pistons game. What the fuck is this?
I don't know. I didn't edit this one. Sorry, I ran out of time. Sorry. You got to. Yeah. Sorry, I missed this. But yeah, I can't. Look, I don't control the Detroit media, and so maybe look, there's not going to be a story you want every day of the week on all this stuff. It just
Welcome to the blue wall.
Is what it is. Yeah.
Jacob Thalen Graham, where is this Google form? I was so ready for it. A couch in the Rube, disappointment, less so on the Rube, and from Ghost of George Perlis and Jake Hawkins. What happened to the Google form?
So the Google form is going to happen, I think. We did a test run, my wife and I, this week. She had an idea for it, and the idea was for Groovy Donut Twitter questions and for our hot takes on our Muskox Monday show to have, instead of, you'd fill out the link, and I'd tweet out and on Facebook put out the link to a Google form, and you would put in your questions or hot takes. Dry run, I didn't like it as much. My wife thought it was great. the whole idea of this is to save me time and to make this thing more operational for all of us. The early kinks are it doesn't, so we're going to figure it out. But that's where that's at. We will get there. I just need to work it through because if it takes more time than this, then there's no freaking point of it. And so yeah, we will get there, and because I'd like to go in that direction.
Jacob Thalen, pick a quarterback to transfer to MSU. Dante Moore, KJ Jefferson, Aiden Childs, or DJ Ugalele.
I mean, I think Moore, if he's going to be a good quarterback, would make sense because he is a Detroit guy, and 5-star kid. But the Childs kid seems intriguing, and it was a guy that Jonathan Smith obviously wanted and chose over Sam Levitt in recruiting, and that should tell you something. So either one of those would be the two.
Brian McDonald, say MSU wants a quarterback and he's going to run a cool million. How does that go? Does Smith talk money, or does he talk about the offense and the pad tie at Caskin Company and leave the money to another? Does that person PayPal the money? So confused.
I don't know yet. And well, coaches are involved in this to a degree. They have to be. But I don't have a sense of Smith. And I haven't even met him because I wasn't there Tuesday. And but I'm looking forward to getting to do so and getting to pick his brain on some of this stuff because I think these are important questions. And you're going to have to pay for players. And so Michigan State's going to have to be able to do that.
Brian McDonald, anything Matt Mancarini can't do well?
He doesn't promote himself very well. That's where he's not great. I mean, he's just not.
Is he sick as well?
No. Oh, no. But what I mean is he's just not great at he doesn't sell himself all that well. And that's the part of his charm is he's just
all you do it for him.
All he cares about is journalism. Yeah, I'm his agent, by the way. I take a cut of his salary. That was part of the deal. I'm coming back.
Steve Beckman, does Jonathan Smith look more like Jim Comparoni or Ryan Black?
Yeah, see, the Ryan Black thing is good. I think there are elements of his cheekbone and cheek structure that is much more Ryan Black, but I get the Jim Comparoni thing. Yeah.
Clint Bainey, better blind date for the ladies or whoever, Jim Comparoni or Coach Jonathan Smith?
I know Jim well enough to know that I'd rather date Jonathan Smith.
Fair, that's a great answer. Clint Bainey, I've been tuned out for the past few weeks. Will we retain Harlan Barnett? Hell of a recruiter.
I think so. And I haven't heard anything otherwise. I need to check in with Harlan a little bit. But it sounded like that was the deal, and then he still needed to talk to Jonathan Smith. But, yeah, I think they will. And my guess is Courtney Hawkins is back as well.
Professor, bazooka to head. Will Jonathan Smith win a Big Ten title at MSU?
Bazooka time.
I don't know. If somebody put a bazooka to your head, would you say yes or no?
No.
Yeah, same. Mm-hmm. It's just hard to do.
Just with the realignment and everything.
Yeah,
that's going to happen.
I think he'll. If you said bazooka to the head, will he get to a playoff? I would say yes, because you got to win 10 games and you got to be in the top 3 or 4 in the Big Ten in the new world. But to win one is hard to do. I mean, that's what made what D'Antonio did so amazing. But it's going to be even harder to do. And not that they won't be in the hunt. I think a couple times potentially, but if you had to guess to actually pull it off, I would say no.
Professor next went to a watch party last weekend, and I was surprised to find my former MSU alum friend dressed head to toe in Michigan gear and rooting hard for them. His reason? I liked them growing up. Acceptable?
Is this acceptable?
No. I mean, it's acceptable in the fact that you can do it, but I'm not going to talk to you about sports if I hear some shit like that. It doesn't seem like someone I would hang out. I don't know. It's not like it's the end of the world, but it's kind of like it's like when I was in the post office in Ovid, and like the girl behind me, the lady behind me, was talking about how she's a diehard Michigan fan, but during basketball season, she's a Michigan State fan. And I'm like, okay,
yeah, people should like what they want, but I do think if you have an affinity for both, then you can't put down the other ever. You're not like part of the trash talk. You're just living in this little la land, and that's fine. But it's weird to a lot of people.
But I mean, if that's what you want to do, so be it.
Yeah.
Up, Ricky Lombardi next. Is it odd that so many MSU offensive players announced entering the portal compared to a few defensive players when Jonathan Smith is allegedly an offensive innovator, Courtney Hawkins supposedly staying, but 4 receivers denounced, and the new best O-line coach is arriving, but 4 O-linemen announced?
Yeah, but they don't know these guys, and that's not what matters to them. I mean, one of the things I think it's important to remember with these players is you can think a certain way about the coaching staff, But these players think differently about the previous coaching staff, right? So they were in a room every day with Scotty Hazelton. They were in a room every day with the different position coaches. They had an affinity. They had a bond. They don't feel good about these guys being released. They don't feel like they were shitty. They don't feel like they didn't have their best interest at heart. These coaches that they were previously with were who they signed up for. And beginning with Mel Tucker being fired, that was taken away from them. So none of it surprises me. Now, the offense-defense deal, I think that's a good sign with as many good young defensive players that maybe a lot of those guys, and there's some good leaders in that group, have said, hey, we're going to stick this out together. Let's see where this goes. And there's still time to get in the portal for those guys, so we'll see. Because it was weird that a lot of them announced it because they wanted to be recruited, I think, before December 4th. But, yeah, I mean, I none of it surprises me because none of these guys see this situation the way we do.
Kevin from Rochester Hills, allegedly the transfer portal will explode on Monday. What % of players will not find a new school?
A lot. I don't know what the percent is, but it's the problem with the transfer portal. And you can say it's a free, fair market and tough life lessons and all that stuff, but it's not what's best for kids. What would be best for kids is if your coach left. Like Michigan State's players should be able to transfer, not just in season with that 30 days, but at the end of the season without sitting out because Mel Tucker they've had a coaching change. But most players, when you don't have that coaching change, should have to sit out. It would be better for them. Is it what's fair? I don't know. But kids are stupid. It would be better for them. And kids' uncles are stupid. It would be better for the players. I think the data would prove that it would be better for them over time. They would make better decisions. And there's no punishment to go somewhere and get an extra year of eligibility and get acclimated and all that. And you'd still have maybe some waivers and other things. But, yeah, a lot won't find. And that's the downside of this.
Kevin from Rochester Hills next. Will Tiger Woods make it through his limited schedule this upcoming year? I mean, he's playing one tournament a month. That's what he's trying to say. I mean, he had his foot fused, so he's not in as much pain. So I would say, yeah, if he's going to do one tournament a month.
I just want him to play the majors. And I want him to be pain-free so it's not like he's dropping out. And so, because to me, what my hope for the rest of Tiger Woods' career is that he's healthy enough to play the majors and that one major a year he's in contention. If I could get that, I would be pretty damn happy with watching Tiger Woods. I don't know about you.
Kind of like Watson at the Masters, who always would sneak in somehow in day two. But see, that's what he does. He thinks he still can win. He's not going to do some shit like that where he's just in contention. I don't think. It
would be interesting. 'Cause you remember Watson also had that one, was it a British Open where he shot like a 59 or something, was in the lead on Sunday and late when he was later in his, whatever it was, he shot, maybe he was 59 years old. But whatever it was, I'm hoping Woods.
But Watson didn't almost get killed in a car accident.
No, Watson's path was a little different. Watson used to played golf with my late grandfather and step-grandma once at Wabeek in near Bloomfield Hills.
No kidding.
Yeah, back in the day. They used to tell that story a lot, by the way. That was a story they thought was worth telling, presented by Midtown Brewing Company, 402 South Washington Avenue in downtown Lansing.
Back then it probably was, though. That's a cool story. Chris Eastlick, do you think that there will be a fix to this portal stuff eventually? I'm all for players being able to do what's best, but it just seems like there's going to be more in the portal than not by December 4th.
It's almost like, I'm glad I'm not like a typical beat writer at this point because holy shit, is it not worth every time somebody jumps in the portal, updating the story, writing a new headline? Are you kidding me? Fuck that. There's a Hallmark movie to watch. But I just can't. It's almost like raise your hand if you're not in the portal. I don't know what the fix is. I think the fix is going to have to come from the player level. It's going to be player driven. It's going to have to come from data over time where people realize, like, wait a second, this really has not worked for us. And how do you create some level of freedom of movement without maybe the argument could be you did it on the other end. Like coaches have to sit out a year if you want to leave. Or if you want to leave from a Power 5 to a Power 5, I don't know. That doesn't really work. But you get the dilemma. I mean, I don't get how you make it fair, how you make it make more sense for players. I think some of it at some point will be tied to NIL compensation more, that players will sign deals, NIL, if you're here for a couple of years. If this is, I don't know, maybe that's an answer. But ultimately it's about what's best for them, and this is not what's best for them.
Eastlick and Neurotic Pants. Do you think a decent amount of MSU's portal entries come back?
Yeah, I would guess half. That would be my guess.
Neurotic Pants, will Mel Tucker ever be able to work around football again? I personally peg him as ending up a televangelist or motivational speaker.
I don't know. You think Tucker, NFL maybe, position coach, analyst, something?
Yeah, we don't have enough time for all of that.
It's hard. It's hard to. I mean, I don't.
He's got enough money, right? I mean,
well, we don't know that. I mean, we won't. Not in a college game. I don't think he'll be back. I guess could he do the? I don't know. Saban's probably not willing to take on that.
Why? I mean,
project.
did he? He didn't commit a crime. He just made a terrible mistake.
Right.
I mean, should the guy never coach again? I mean, if he goes the Saban route and does the GA thing,
I think he's been much worse. What's happened since though? I think his reaction to it had been different than he. But the way
I can understand the reaction somewhat, but yeah,
you know what I mean.
I agree with it.
Yeah, I think that's going to make it harder for him. Let's take a really quick break here, and when we come back, we will dig back more into your groovy donut Twitter questions. Couch in the Rube, presented by our friends at Firekeepers and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app, and Front 43 and Cask and Company.
Ever wonder how comfortable you can be and how good you can look? Put on a Muskox flannel and find out. Muskox has new arrivals for this fall, including the Caper Green Grand Flannel, which even makes Couch look good. Muskox is a Detroit-based flannel company that creates soft and durable flannels made to last a lifetime. They become a great partner with Couch in the Rube, not just because they make us look good and feel good, but because they're good people too, and a socially conscious company. For every $100 purchase, $10 is donated to the Alaska Wildlife Conservation. Muskox flannels are designed with 100% cotton that is ethically sourced and double brushed for softness. Feel the quality and comfort of a Muskox flannel by ordering at gomuskox.com, where Couch in the Rube listeners can enjoy $15 off their flannel purchase with the promo code HOFF.
Christmas is almost here, and jewelry is for sure on your list. But where will you go for that very special gift? I'm Katrine Medawar, and we at Medawar Jewelers' 4 locations in Lansing, Okemos, Jackson, and Portage have filled our stores with gorgeous pieces of jewelry just in time for the holiday season. Diamond rings, diamond necklaces, bracelets, earrings, watches. We have a huge selection of the latest designs of engagement rings. And if you want your ring custom designed, then we do it all in-house, exquisitely created by our master jeweler. If a lab-created diamond is on your mind, then come in today and we'll show you the largest selection of the highest quality lab diamonds in mid-Michigan. So, what to buy this Christmas? Come to Medawar Jewelers. We have you covered.
Medawar Jewelers.
Find Couch in the Rube podcasts on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and the Rube's favorite podcast addict.
Couch in the Rube, presented by our friends at Firekeepers and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app, and also Front 43 Neighborhood Pub and Cask and Company Kitchen and Bar. All right, back to your groovy donut Twitter question.
Jordan Bunt, for the both of you, name the program you would like to be a head football coach at for each of the Power 5 conferences. Also list the number 1 place you'd love to be the head coach for all of the FBS schools.
If you could be a head coach one place, where would it be?
Florida Atlantic.
Yeah, they're not in the. I guess they are FBS. Why would it be Florida Atlantic? Just low pressure, great.
Boca Raton,
yeah,
Florida. Yeah, no pressure. You win 10 games, you're a genius.
A lot of old people, a lot of back sweat.
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't sound.
It's a great place to make millions, though.
It is. Yeah. No. I would probably want to be somewhere where I want to be somewhere where like Iowa seems almost perfect. You don't have to score points. You don't have to score points. You can go, you can go up and down all the time, and people put up with you. But actually, the other play, I don't know whether I'd want this or not. Like a Boston college, live in Boston, people sort of care, got to win a little bit. That would be kind of fun. I don't know, but that would be frustrating not getting fans to games and recruiting and all that. It's a good question. I like Indiana. I think I would want to be a football coach at a basketball school where they kept the expectations low. That would be my answer. To each of the Power 5 conferences, that's hard to do. But I would say, maybe I don't like the Bay Area. So it'd be, I like Oregon a lot. I would do Oregon. Yeah, give me Oregon. I'm not going to go through them all, but I would say a basketball school would be the key for me because give me Bloomington, Indiana, great college town. You win 7 games, you're sort of fun. People stick with you, and then they move on to basketball, and they leave you alone, and you have a great winter.
David Jackson, since Jaden Akins is not going to get an invitation to the Combine and has sub-NBA handles for a guy 6'4", will he return to MSU, transfer to a different school, or play overseas in 2025? And from Chris Ellenberger, based on Akins' current performance, do you think he is an NBA caliber player? Your prior prediction. And from PD, are Akins' ball handling skills holding him back from taking that next step?
Clearly some questions on Jaden Akins here. So I do think, right now he doesn't look like a guy who's head of the NBA. I would be surprised if that. Now, it doesn't mean he can't have a great, last 2 months. We've seen that before, and it could change his projection. But there's nothing we've seen right now that I think makes him a guy that the NBA is going to say, we want you as a first-round pick. He could decide he's done with college and take his shot. So I think it's more likely he returns. The idea that he transfers, here would be my thing for a guy like Jaden Akins. One, he's not built quite like that. He is a serious student, though I think he'll be done with school after this year, so he'd be a graduate transfer. But I know his dad, he's a salt-of-the-earth guy. It's not like he's got dumb parental advice in his ear. I also think if you take Hoggard out of the and Walker out of the mix, and he's in a backcourt with a guy like Jeremy Fears, and he's more featured, he may see that as the best opportunity. So the ball handling skills, I don't know. We haven't seen him create with him a lot. I think that is something he needs to get better at. If he was 2 inches taller, he'd be a 3-and-D guy, and he'd already be in the NBA. But that's not his fortune. So he's going to have to show he can create.
Chris Ellenberger, how many games will A.J. Hoggard not start this season? Over, under? And from Dick Kane, is it possible that Hoggard plays better off the bench, gets starter minutes, and has the type of season we all thought he'd have as 6th man instead of a starter?
Over, under on A.J. Hoggard not starting, I'd say 6.5, and I would take the under still right now. Is it possible he plays off the bench? I don't know. I don't know where his ego is on that. Could he be a really good 6th man who finishes games? Maybe that's the play. And that would be an interesting conversation with him. And would he be okay with that? Another guy who's trying to get to the NBA, and a guy who here's the weird thing with Hoggard, and I don't think he's coming back, and I'm not sure they necessarily want him back, but he's got another year if he wants it. He's the last class that gets the COVID year. So that's another weird dynamic to just think about as a guy who's trying to make the NBA.
David Jackson, based on known departures, how many 2024 starters can we expect to come from newcomers next year?
We must be talking basketball, right? 2024 starters, newcomers, I would say 0 probably. Yeah, 0. Because I think you'll have Fears, you'll have your center position set. You'd ideally have Booker, you'd have Carr, and you'd have Akins. So I'd say 0.
Cinema, not only does Sports Illustrated get caught using AI to make their articles look real, they cook up fake AI-generated journalist profile to look like a real person is behind it. Between that and fake sideline reports, what does the future of sports writing look like?
So what I've been told from a podcast from an SI writer and just SI writers I've heard, they have not written one story. Sports Illustrated itself, and no profiles or anything is written a sports story using AI. That's all been real people. That was some separate thing they contracted to for reviews of consumer whatever. It's not great. AI is concerning. There's lots of stuff with that, but I think it's a lot's being made of something that isn't right now with Sports Illustrated itself in terms of AI.
Next one from Cinema. Jason, what's your favorite movie while on an edible? Mine has to be The Big Lebowski or Half Baked. Yeah, I don't really watch many movies.
Really?
I don't really. To be honest, I never really rewatch movies. Like Equalizer 3 was awesome. I would probably watch that again, but I'm watching sports. We watch Dateline, and then that's it. I'm not a big movie guy unless something like Mission Impossible comes out or something like that.
So is Therese a big movie person?
No.
Well, you found a good fit.
No.
You would struggle in our house, big time.
Yeah, many ways. Zeke's fan page. What is the best thing about Michigan State University, and why is it the Zeke the Wonder Dog? And what would you have to be offered to never bet on sports or eat a donut again?
To never bet on sports, because again, we are action bettors. We're not people trying to make money on it. We really enjoy it. So for you never to be able to bet on sports again, what would have to be asked? Given to you.
He changes the Zeke's fan page bit into something else. I don't know.
That would do
we
it.
We get it. Zeke's fan page. We understand Zeke the Wonder Dog shit. I know. You know what I mean? Like, all right.
How much money though would it take for you never to place a bet again?
$80 gajillion. I don't know.
80
like
grand?
No, dude, $1 million.
Wow, that much. So
you never gamble again? I mean, what the fuck? I mean, that means I never watch sports again.
Yeah, for me, never to have another groovy donut would be. We're 50 at least 50 grand. We'd start to talk, but even then, I would have some reservations. Yeah, just it's Christmas season, lots of good donuts. That would suck.
Nestle's Quick Hotel. Which is more likely? Too early to tell prediction. Johnson flames out in 5 years when his best record is 5-7, or he wins 27 games in the next 3 years and replaces Saban.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether that sort of trajectory is something he wants, but more. So 27 games is 9 games a year over 3 years, or flames out. Flames out seems.
Oh, he means Jonathan Smith, right?
Yeah.
It says Johnson in here. Okay.
Oh, yeah, Jonathan Smith. Sorry, yeah.
All right.
So Jonathan Smith goes best record 5-7 over 5 years. I think that's very unlikely. I think it's actually more likely. I mean, I don't think it's likely, but I think it's more likely he wins 27 games in the next 3 years and replaces Saban than he goes 5-7 as his best record over 5 years. That seems unlikely given his track record at Oregon State.
Fart Soup, is there any chance DJ Ugalaloya comes to MSU?
It's actually a better pronunciation than most. Listening to Solari last night try to pronounce it was unbelievable. I think it was great.
Ugalele comes to MSU, or as Matt Rule put it, is he a $2 million quarterback?
I don't think he is. I don't know. I mean,
if that kid is a $2 million quarterback, holy hell.
Yeah. You got to be careful.
This is going to get insane if he's a $2 million guy.
Yeah, some of these guys, you got to say, look, if you want to prove yourself, I mean, and a guy like that may understand that his money is not going to be in the NFL, so he's got to make it, and then you go where the best offer is. But I would still get younger guys and develop them. That would be the way to go. And then when you get them here, try to pay. It's a tricky spot. The quarterback position is going to become expensive and interesting.
Fart Soup Couch, please explain the cough plague woman from your flight. I want vivid details and for your true animosity to shine through.
Well, no, she didn't cough for like half an hour, and then it was just constant. And then she reclined right back into my knee, and I was trying to, work or whatever, and it was just persistent and inconsiderate, and I just can't imagine most people being in her shoes, not being mortified to the point that they were at least covering their mouths more often and asking for a mask and just trying to avoid making everybody else around them uncomfortable. I mean, it was just, it was awful.
Jay Riemenschneider, why do lots of people, including you, keep saying this is Michigan's best and only chance? Yes, they'll lose a lot of players and maybe Harbaugh, but with an expanded college football playoff, Michigan will more than likely be fine after 2024.
Well, yeah, I mean, they'll probably have many more chances to get into the playoff. There'll be a perennial team that's battling for a playoff bid, but we've seen them screw up the coaching thing before, and so there's no guarantees there. And this is their best. It's a veteran team. This is their best chance maybe to be the best team in college football, which they might be. That is not something that Michigan is going to be often. So I think this is that for them. I would be very surprised if they still are regularly after this.
Jay, how upset are MSU and Ohio State folks going to be when the NCAA punishment for Michigan isn't nearly as harsh as they want it to be?
I mean, people will be disappointed, but I don't think it'll be unexpected. I don't know what it'll be. And I still think it'll be the problem is a lot of it's going to, I think, be head coach Harbaugh related, and he won't be there anymore probably, so there's that.
John not L. Smith this season. What is your go-to Christmas cookie? The one that when you see them on the tray, you wiggle your fingers and with raised eyebrows say, "Don't mind if I do," before taking 2, then 2 more, and then 1 more.
I know you're a diabetic, but do you have one that you just can't resist?
That is the Andy Reid.
Yeah. Is that what they call
Nuggies. No, that commercial he's in
Oh,
where
yeah,
he
yeah.
scurries his little fat hand across the table. I hate that commercial with a passion. How about those Nuggies? I'm like, why are we celebrating this guy? We're rooting for him to have a heart attack.
Are you a big Christmas cookie person?
No. I'll have one here and there.
A really good gingerbread that's well icinged with some
What are those
M&Ms.
ones that came in the tin? I don't know.
The little Thin Mints? Or are you talking about the peanut butter ones? Or I like them all. I mean, I'm not really discriminating.
I don't know. Matt C., who do you think, what do you think the odds are Xavier Booker is back at MSU next year? I say less than 10% since he's clearly not a fit with his coaching staff.
I don't understand why you think his shortcomings mean he's not a fit with his coaching staff. Like Xavier Booker, if you watch him play, is not ready to be an impact player at the Big Ten level. And anywhere he was playing a lot would not be winning with him. And so, I mean, obviously his recruiting profile created expectations that we all bought into, but he's just not there yet. And the one thing I would say is Izzo mentions this a lot, and I don't know this to be 100% where his heads are, but his parents seem to be on board with his track and what they're doing with him. And he seems to understand it. He's a nice kid. He and Fears are very close. And Fears works with him all the time. Like, he may decide he wants something else, and I would, that wouldn't surprise me either. But I would put above 50% just because I haven't seen the evidence of like being a malcontent. He seems engaged. He wants this. He knows he's not ready. I mean, he goes in practice every day against these guys. He knows the situation. He sees it. It's not like I'm better than that guy and I'm not out there. He's not right now. And so I don't understand why this coaching staff has anything to do with his shortcomings. Chris Solari brought up something, and I had not heard this, but he said something that he had talked to somebody at a school, it might have been Purdue or somewhere else, that had to recruit him, they felt, because of his location, but was almost grateful he went to MSU because they worried about his motor. Now, I don't know what that story is, but I still think he can be a terrific college player. I think he may be a better pro prospect because of his size and length and skill, but he's a ways off, and that's not on Tom Izzo or the staff.
Lobster Puncher next. How many more years of basketball and Hall of Fame coaching will it take before Graham admits that Mady Sissoko should have a better feel for the game by now? He was a prize recruit and has played college ball for 4 years. Rebound, defend, and dunk. Maybe not fall over, too.
Yeah, no, I mean, if it was going to happen for him, it was going to happen. And sometimes guys are raw, and so they have way more upside to grow into, and sometimes they're raw and they just don't ever get the game or have the feel or have the – and that's who Mady Sissoko is. I mean, if he was 7 foot, he would be big enough to overcome it, but he's not. And so he's just – I still think he can be a good 12-minute-a-game center, comes in, provides energy, rebounds. He does some things well, but you're limited on offense when he's in the game. He still misses some things defensively. He is who he is at this point.
Some dude trying to figure out why MSU doesn't play well early in the season. We've all seen the break them down and build them back up movies. Hoosiers, Remember the Titans, all the sports movies. Is this what Izzo does every fucking year? Why doesn't he do early season to not prepare the team to get W's that we'll get at the end of the year? Help me understand.
I don't think this is intent. He is not Denzel Washington and Remember the Titans or Gene Hackman. Maybe he does a few of my team is on the floor, play 4 guys without Hogard. We could see that from Izzo, because there are years that he's had teams that are really good out of the chute with the Denzel senior year, the 2013-14 year. Sometimes with Cassius, but I think part of it is he has imperfect rosters that he's able to sort of figure it out eventually, and they grow into it. And a lot of times I think MSU's brand is better than its talent, and so their expectations are greater than their team, and it takes them a while to get there. And then they do something well at the end of the year, and that creates the expectations for the next year, and they underachieve at the beginning. It's a good question because they are rarely the team at the beginning they are not Arizona this year or UConn last year very often, where you go, holy smokes. And their veteran talent this year is not overwhelming. It's seasoned, but not overwhelming. And I think the problem this year, too, is largely roster construction and missing that outside shooting piece with Joey Hauser. Much bigger problem than they imagined.
G Couch UK. D'Antonio has gotten love again. Will Izzo get love? The single focus on the NCAA title is warping minds. When in our heads, we know that it's never happening, right? Enjoy what you got. It won't last forever.
Izzo will get plenty of love when he's done, partly because what will happen next may or may not be great, but the appreciation for the fact that he turned a middling program into this. He made MSU a power. He made MSU significant in something that it wasn't. It's MSU wasn't a hockey school because it was great at hockey. It was a hockey school because it was great at hockey, and its basketball program was middling. And Izzo changed that. As much as hockey killed hockey, Izzo killed hockey.
G Couch, when will the Big Ten football shell out for QB helmets with communication?
I think that'll be an NCAA thing, but it's got to happen soon. I mean, this has raised awareness that how far college is behind the high school and pro game. It doesn't make any sense.
Mojo Jojo, would Florida State versus Michigan turn every Spartan back into a Keon fan for 24 hours? Would love to see him go full throttle against that secondary.
Sure. I mean, because the disaster, Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, is Michigan winning a national title, right? Is that just...
Yeah, but not, I mean, isn't there going to be an asterisk by it now that they're cheating or whatever? I mean, it takes a little bit of the blow out of it, but yeah, I mean,
MSU fans can use the asterisk if they like, but I think ultimately it would be just I could sense it, the demoralization when they beat Ohio State. That was a rough loss. It would be 3 times that if they won a national title.
Mojo, what's the best way to say hi to you in public, Graham? Leaving a groovy donut on the corner of your laptop and waving from a safe distance? Sliding a crisp ale at front 43 to you from across the bar? Ripping off the sleeves? I mean, we get it.
It's a muskox flannel.
Fucking Christ. While spotting you as you bench 250, Tim Stout?
All of the above, right? Ripping.
By the way, I listened to Stout yesterday. I had it on in the car for a second. He went off on the board of trustees. It made me laugh so hard because that's typical Dean. Is he'll wait until the bitter end of it, and everybody really hates somebody, and then he'll jump on it like it's a hot take or something.
Yeah, like he's the last guy to have the take. yeah.
Because he never has a hot take on anything.
Yeah.
He's so indifferent. It was so funny to listen to it. Like, nice take, Tim. Could have had that maybe a year ago.
I do love the idea of a groovy donut on the corner of my laptop and waving from a safe distance. That seems like a really
That
nice
seems
move.
like the right way to do it.
Yeah.
Sports Guy, 1919. Could the Big Ten ever adopt the rule that if a championship game is a rematch between a regular season match, there is no rematch, and the team that won the first game is conference champ?
I did see a story from Ross Dellinger at Yahoo about the idea that they were going to look at getting rid of conference championship games. There's a lot of money into a lot of things, but at a certain point, they won't make as much sense. But there's a lot of money there. The playoffs expanded. Like, I do wonder the finances of it, the TV contracts, the TV partners certainly want those games, how you make that up to them. But it also doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, if Michigan and Ohio State were to play again this week, it doesn't make any sense. So I think we'll have to see how it plays out. And when if it starts to become an issue, I think you'll see some movement.
Spartan Mike, where is Bill Beekman now? Worst AD in MSU history. Move over, Marilee Dean. No due diligence in Mel Tucker hiring. Criminal. Very proud of Alan Haller this. Man, you're fucking trying to kill me. Very proud of Alan Haller this morning of this hiring.
Sorry, it's Alan Tucker is what it says here, right? Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry. I was trying to get these done quickly. There were a lot more than I realized. Bill Beekman is still working in the president's office. And look, the Tucker thing, though, was a tough spot when they did it. And, I think a lot of what happened there, too, falls on the firm that did the background check. They did not work with this time. But he's still employed at MSU.
Jason, do you think that Bill Beekman...
Tim Horton, why did Mark Hollis actually, quote-unquote, retire?
I'm so glad I'm not doing Yoda voices regularly anymore. I was bad at that.
At least we still have that, though.
Yeah. No, he retired for a couple reasons. One, I do believe the part that, all of his siblings had died young, and I think his dad, I don't want to kill people who aren't dead, so I should be careful here. But a family history of real health concerns about his age, and his wife wanted him to retire at the time. But also, there was stuff coming down the pike that was not going to be good for him, and he ducked out. There's no question about it.
All right. Tom, how bad does Jake Boss and his team have to be before Haller makes a change? How long is Haller going to accept consistent mediocrity on the diamond?
Well, I mean, I think Jake Boss probably saved himself last year. I think you also don't want to sweep everybody out. The other problem is in baseball and softball, it is freaking hard to win there. And there are limitations in recruiting and who he's able to recruit in terms of in-state scholarships and things like that. The weather is awful at Michigan State. Like to me, Michigan State itself in baseball and softball accepts mediocrity. There are very few programs up north that aren't mediocre by nature. And if you're going to put the resources into it, then you could talk. But that build a dome, you talk. But otherwise, it is what it is.
Ghost of George Perlis. I only have one question in two parts. A, have you ever seen the movie Kung Fury? If you have not, you should check out the trailer. B, to what do you account for this mass exodus of young men in the portal? And C, did the blue wall start before or after Robert Traylor car crash?
I think that was it. The Robert Traylor crash was what began the blue wall. There was a meeting of the minds. Mitch Albom was there. Bob Wojo was there. And the blue wall began. The mass exodus, I've not seen Kung Fury. Have you?
Yes.
You have? Okay.
Yeah, is that with Danny McBride in it?
I don't know. I've not seen it.
I've seen it.
Good movie?
Yeah, I liked it.
Okay. Yeah, this is the way it is. Players want options, and for Michigan State right now, their world has been thrown upside down. We've talked about this, and they're going to look at their options.
Bo McJunkins, should there be a separate state tournaments for private schools versus public?
It's a good question. In other states, they have this. Some places have it, or they have this question's been raised more because there are bigger advantages. I'd like to be one state champion, but if the rules in terms of recruiting and other things were I think with school choice and the ability for public schools to recruit as well, it's no longer as big a deal. So I would say no.
Where are we?
Beaumont Junkins.
What is MSU basketball trying to accomplish on offense the last several years? We have so many guys who just stand around and are out of bounds at the end of the game. Plays suck ass lately.
Yeah, it hasn't been great because I think the key to them is a ball screen game with a great point guard and a great break. That's when their offense is working, and it at times just hasn't been there since Cassius. When their break is good, it's still okay, but their break hasn't been good, and that's been the biggest problem for Michigan State.
Pigskin Scoop. Graham, why is there 2 halves in men's basketball, college basketball, and 4 quarters in women's college basketball?
I think eventually you'll get to 2 halves in men, or 4 quarters in men's too. It's only in the men's college game do they play 2 halves. High school, every pro level, everywhere else, the women's game, there are 4 quarters. So that's where we are actually headed.
Pigskin, have you ever pissed off Izzo with a question?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's where our drop comes from.
Absolutely. I mean, fucking everybody masturbates.
Oh, not that one.
Nah, thanks.
Don't coach my.
Sorry,
there you
wrong
go.
one.
Thank you. That was a question in Illinois that Izzo didn't love.
Adam Blond, people may be uneasy with all these players in the portal, but looks like we can upgrade our roster faster than thought with these type of players available. Thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's what's available now. I mean, that's the thing about the portal is you don't have to wait to get functional guys. You got to figure. I mean, Jonathan Smith made it clear that he wants a development program, a program that's built on high school recruits. But you have to supplement with the portal these days. There's no just because you can get older guys who are more ready. You can fix holes that you don't have to have anymore, and there's no excuse to have because the portal is there to fill them.
Adam, also is MSU's defensive coordinator announced after Iowa game Saturday night, and Phil Parker comes home.
You know, that would be interesting. That would be a great hire. He's obviously been tremendous at Iowa. I cannot see him leaving Iowa. But if he felt that Kirk Ferentz was almost done, who knows? Maybe that's the move.
Ken Chu, is Blue his real name? And if not, can he just use his real name?
I think this is the guy, the assistant coach who is coming from Oregon, or Oregon State, who I think is staying at Oregon State now, and I have no idea.
John, any thoughts on the MAC going to pods?
I kind of like it. I like doing something different. What they're doing is going to 4 3-team pods instead of 2 6-team divisions. and I don't hate it because you're going to play the teams in your pod every year, and then everybody else you'll play every other year, I believe. And I have to look at the whole way it's going, but I like them being on the forefront, spicing it up. They were on the forefront of MACtion. Now, I personally think the MAC should focus on being a basketball conference, but if they're going to do football, they got to stay on the forefront of things.
John, will MSU women's basketball be ranked at any point this season? Do you guess they will make the tournament?
They haven't played anybody real yet, but they're scoring a fuckload of points. And I've only seen them play once on TV. They're scoring like 90, 100 points a game in half these games. Robin Fralick's style is fun to watch. I need to see them play somebody real, and that's going to happen here soon. They're going to play some Big Ten games, but they're interesting, that's for sure.
Mr. Benjen, why should we care who goes in the portal since A, they can return, and B, most of them stunk anyway?
Well, that's a fair question. I mean, I think there are some key guys there who didn't stink, and you do need depth, and there are some young guys you'd want to develop. But you're right. Who goes in the portal now is not news the way it used to be. At the end, if you can
it's like the one question about the offensive line. Like, why did they let 4 offensive? Like, who do you want from that 4, though?
It's a good question. I mean, Ethan Boyd, East Lansing kid who's young still, maybe develop. You're right. You don't know who you could develop, but you can't lose too many of them. But yeah, it's a fair question. It's not like, and some of those guys may come back because you know what, other people don't want them either, and we'll see where they wind up.
Ben Jen, 5 guys standing around on offense, then bricking shot after shot. Is this even a tournament team the way they're playing? Except for 16 minutes at Arizona and beating up a Patsy.
Yeah, because even the Butler win, which is a Butler win, looks really good now. Look what Butler's been doing. Yeah, Michigan State is going to be fine in terms of like safely in the tournament. And the question is, can they become the team offensively? Defensively, I think they can be elite, but can they become the team offensively, and can they get consistency out of their guards to the point where they can be something close to what we thought they'd be by the time the tournament goes around? And I think to really ideally be a top 4 seed in the NCAA tournament and to have a shot at making a run to a Final Four, I don't know if that team's in them or not, if they have the consistency for it, but they're going to be fine in terms of being safely in, 6 seed, 7 seed, that world. That's still the floor.
Jack Devine, D'Antonio and Tucker both probably kept assistants around longer than they should have been. With Smith bringing so many guys across the country, are you worried the same thing could happen? And he felt obligated to keep them even if they don't perform well.
Some people said Smith's loyal to a fault, so that may drive people crazy as well. He's had some coaches leave that staff. I don't know for what reasons. So that's, I haven't gone back and looked at the stories where they were fired or what. He did fire one high-profile assistant at some point, so he hasn't stayed with them entirely. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know the guy yet, and I think you do want continuity, though. Continuity is better than not. There's a loyalty to a fault, but if you have to, lean either way, you want continuity.
Tyrone Plum, spin for me, Graham. Better for MSU to draw out the defensive coordinator hire and make the best choice, or hire a quality coach ASAP for recruiting and chance another Ross Ells type hire.
Yeah, it's tricky because you can't wait too long because guys during recruiting have to know who the coordinator is. We'll see what happens after this championship weekend. I would think by next week you got to get a coordinator in place, ideally. But the other thing is you want the right guy, and if that takes a minute, I've said this in hiring and other jobs. Sometimes I see it in sports journalism. They're like, we got to get a writer in place. Football season starting. If you don't have a writer for the first 2 weeks, and then you get the right person in place for the next 5-10 years, so much better than having the wrong person in place on week 1, right? And same thing goes for a defensive coordinator.
Mean Joel Green, will Jonathan Smith bring decriminalization of magic mushrooms to Michigan from Oregon? Is that how he unlocks those intricate line shifts?
Acid is really everybody's going to be on acid and shrooms, and that's going to be the new style. And
have you ever taken either?
No. I once punched a guy who was on shrooms in the face in a dorm at a party. It was at our dorm room. We had a big loft sort of thing, and he was jumping on my furniture. I thought he was going to break the chair, and I just decked him in the face and dragged him out of the room.
And then you broke your own chair.
Yeah, this is back when I had confidence, and I was 20 years old.
Good old days.
Life was good.
Edward Gardner, why does Solari always have to try to use big words when he doesn't look the part?
I don't know what you mean by that.
Hans Jurgen, why were you not at Jonathan Smith's press conference? We talked about it, I think. Were you watching some boring-ass soccer game?
I was not. I was watching the press conference. I just wasn't there, and had done a lot of pre-reporting. But yeah, I was ill.
Hans Jurgen, do you think Smith would bolt for UCLA if given the chance?
This is a good question, and because he grew up on the doorstep of the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, I don't think he would just bolt. Like, he signed a 7-year contract, right? He's not leaving anytime soon. But he's only 44 years old. So is this his last move? That I don't know, and I don't know if he'll love living in the Midwest or if he'll want to go west at some point. That I can't tell you.
Hans Jurgen, Oregon State fans are pissed at Smith. Is there ever a good way for a coach to leave a school behind?
It's hard because, like, even you see the guy James Madison who's going to Indiana, and he's going to coach James Madison in the bowl game. Though, would those players want to still play for? Like, that's a weird spot to be in. Like, you're hurting yourself with your next job, and your other guys are pissed at you. Like, I think it's a hard situation, and it's made worse by the recruiting calendar for sure.
Hans, if my real identity was Hondo, would you expose me and ruin my career?
You are way too clever, my friend. I'm going to tell you right now. Like, Hondo would not have asked that question.
Hondo doesn't look the part either.
That's true.
Jake Hawkins. With Trent Bray staying in Corvallis and take over as Oregon State head football coach, who do you think Jonathan Smith should try and get? How about Jim Leonard?
Leonard would be great. I don't know where he's at on this. I really don't. But Jim Leonard would be a fantastic hire if they were able to get him. He's at Illinois. I do wonder if Leonard's going to need to, it appears, take another defensive coordinator job to become a head coaching candidate again. And why not do it at a place like MSU?
Jake Hawkins, what size of muskox flannel should I get? XL or XXL? I'm about 6'2" to 6'3" and pretty stocky.
I believe Muskox chimed in and brought up the point that Brad Hoos is a big guy too, and he said XL. I wear an XL. What do you wear, an XL with these or XXL?
I don't know. Probably. Where is it? Hold on.
Yep, no problem.
XL maybe? I don't know. I can't see it.
Okay.
Probably XL.
Yeah, I think XL, and I think that's what they told you. I wear an XL for it, and I'm large and fat, and it makes me look good. I don't want something that's too baggy. I went to a big and tall store once, and it just made me look worse.
Upper Deck Jerk Guy, if someone asks more than 2, how would you choose which 2 to have Jason read?
Usually I just, I just cut. That's how I do it. And occasionally somebody gets a third in if it's really good, or I forgot to take it out.
It's not that we don't want to read
right.
your questions and answer them. It's just like this. It's hot as fucking here, and we're going on like 2.5 hours. You know?
Yeah,
it really has nothing to do with you guys. It's on me. I get cranky and hungry and shit. I want to get out of here.
Yeah, I can just hear it in Jason's voice.
Yeah.
That is.
It just goes on. There's too many sometimes for the show.
Yeah, and sometimes
it sounds crazy.
Sometimes I'm able to bunch them up, and I did with certain ones, not the Portal ones. That's all it is. We love.
I love every single one of you that listens to this bullshit.
Yes.
Seriously, it's not about you guys. Upper Deck Jerk Guy, what was your worst case of Borborygamos? Borborygamos.
All right, give me Hoff for one last time, and then I'll look this up real quick. Absolutely. I mean, fucking everybody masturbates. It's
Peacock.
Largest, angriest, and I don't even understand this. I don't know how to answer your question. I apologize.
There's no definition.
It looks like it's a place or a thing or a what, and it's a great gathering card.
I gotta say, instead of it's more fun to watch. You have to look it up than me say it sometimes. I think.
Yeah.
All right, last one, Jerk Guy. If Harbaugh leaves for the NFL, how long does it take for Smith to get back on top of the rivalry?
That is the question, right? And can he do it? And will Michigan slide at all? I mean, those are the questions. I think if he can get on top of the rivalry, though, he will be beloved the way D'Antonio was, and that is the first thing. If he can get some sort of control, look, as frustrating as people were with Mel Tucker, those 2 wins over Michigan until the end bought him some rope, right? And so it's not everything. But if you can stake your claim and be competitive in that rivalry, it makes a big difference. We appreciate all of you for producing our show and your many good Twitter questions, some fantastic discussion. We appreciate Groovy Donuts. Go to groovydonuts.com. Going to be fantastic holiday selections all coming this month. Groovydonuts.com for pre-orders, or stop by either location Thursday through Sunday, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m., Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing, and also in Williamston. We appreciate Front 43 and Cask & Company. Go to caskandcompany.com, place a reservation, or just show up. Just terrific vibe. 2 places, great menu, wonderful beer selection. We appreciate Midtown Brewing Company. Great place for a date night this weekend. Brunch on Sundays as well. Of course, thanks to Firekeepers and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. We will talk to you Monday, I believe, with hot takes. Good show, man.
Yeah, man.
Couch in the Roof.